The latest on the war in Ukraine and the new push for peace talks. Britt Clinton is in Kyiv with the very latest. Good morning, Britt.
Good morning, Michael. Ukraine continues to ration power after attacks on energy facilities, rolling blackouts here in the capital too. The energy crisis getting more desperate as the winter approaches, and it's a very bitter winter. This as a group of 30 Democrats sent a letter to President Biden urging him to pursue direct talks with Russia to reduce harm and support Ukraine in achieving a peaceful settlement. And while they say they want Ukraine at the negotiating table, the lawmakers want the administration to pair the military and economic support the U.S. has provided to Ukraine with a active diplomatic push. But the White House says Vladimir Putin's actions make it clear he's not willing to negotiate.
And what's in this letter is the lowest possible bar. Yeah. They're not saying pull back aid, pull back weapons, sending weapons over there. All they're saying is, can you please pair the relief that we're sending to Ukraine with a diplomatic push, which is contrary to what we had learned about the NATO's efforts to basically discourage any kind of direct negotiation with Russia earlier this year. Now, given how moderate that letter is, you would think it was a non-issue, a non-news story, a total blip, right?
But no.
This is from the founder of the Daily Kos, a liberal online magazine. He tweeted, "This by Rashida Tlaib, Ro Khanna, and other progressives is unbelievably naive and stupid, asking for diplomacy with a murderous terrorist regime, literally raping and pillaging through Ukraine. Biden tried diplomacy to prevent the war. Only overwhelming force will now end it." That's
overwhelming force will not end it. It will not. I mean, overwhelming force, it would be nuclear force. What are you talking about?
That's the liberals for you right now.
It's So in there's a Washington Post article. It's a write up of this letter, and then is checking in with other Democrats, administration spokespeople for how they feel about it. And those people are like, no, hard no to this letter. We are giving the aid, and we are not gonna. They are advocating the U.S. should not have any kind of push on Ukraine to negotiate with Russia, and should not negotiate with Russia itself. We are giving unlimited aid, according to the Biden administration, until such time as Zelensky himself personally signals that it is time for there to be negotiations with Russia. That's crazy.
There's some new polls that are just coming in now on the Russian invasion of Ukraine. These are polls of the American public, and the responses are really interesting. So let's go ahead and throw up that first graphic there. Should Russia be allowed to invade its neighbors? Seems like a pretty straightforward question. No, 82%. Yes, 4%. Now, granted, the poll was, it was asked in a way that's sort of flippant, but I mean, only 4% support for what Vladimir Putin did. Whose side should the U.S. be taking during the conflict? Ukraine, 57%. Neither, 25%. Russia is all the way down at 2%. These are YouGov polls. Let's throw up that next graphic. Biden's response to Russia has been not tough enough, 39%. About right, 28%. Too tough, 4%. Unsure, 28%. So people are a little bit confused, and we'll dig deeper on that in a second. Those who approve of Biden not sending troops into Ukraine approve, 56%. Disapprove, only 15% disapprove. 29% are unsure. So only 15% want U.S. troops to be involved. Only like 2% or 4% support what Russia's doing. The weird area of contradiction is like, when you go issue for issue, people are like, I agree with Biden on that. I agree with Biden on that. I agree with Biden on that. So all of his specific responses to what's happening, people generally agree with. But then when you ask them in a very broad sense, like, hey, do you think he's doing a good job? Or what do you think's going on here? They say, well, he's not being too tough. But you just agreed with the way he's approaching this. Like, point for point, you agreed. Yeah, but I don't think he's being too tough. I don't think he's being tough enough.
If you needed a sign of just how flipped upside down our politics have gotten, this week saw the cause of peace and diplomacy championed by the most watched host on Fox News, as well as the crew over at Pod Save America, while the Congressional Progressive Caucus beat such a quick retreat from a call for diplomacy that now seems like there's practically no room inside the Democratic Party for anybody concerned about the rapidly escalating war in Ukraine.
And what we're talking about is the Ukraine war and how the squad has reacted to it. Here's what AOC tweeted out. The conflict between Ukraine and Russia is profoundly concerning, but military conflict is not the solution. We must seek a diplomatic resolution rather than escalate tensions and avoid sanctions that hurt the Ukrainian people.
Okay.
She deleted that tweet.
Oh, good. Oh, thank God.
So the People's so the People's Party tweeted this out. It says AOC began. Okay. Let me see. Okay. It says AOC began February by tweeting that we must avoid sanctions. She then deleted the tweet. By the end of February, she supported the sanctions. Conclusion, AOC and the squad are very much a part of the establishment. #Ukraine.
But she has to make deals. That's how she helped get this union thing done.
Yeah. So she kept this tweet up for a whole week before she deleted it. And so here, let's take a look at the squad. The squad calls for Ukraine intervention in Ukraine. Progressive, this is from Left Voice. Progressive members of Congress are calling for sanctions against Russia as the war in Ukraine continues to escalate. We need an anti-war movement that condemns every call for U.S. intervention of any sort. And that's by Sam Carliner. And that's from February 26th. And on February 23rd, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, first, or Sandy, as she was called before she ran for office, she first weighed in on the war in Ukraine, calling for the United States to escalate its intervention using sanctions. She tweeted the following message from her congressional Twitter account. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is indefensible. The U.S. is right to impose targeted sanctions on Putin and his oligarchs. We also must work, is right. So she was against them, now she's for them. We also must work with our allies to prepare for a refugee crisis on a massive scale. Finally, any military action must take place with congressional approval.
And yes, in advance.
And of course, you have my approval of the military and sanctions. Since then, other members of the squad of progressives, members of Congress, have spoken out. Cori Bush joined the calls for sanctions, and Jamal Bowman released a statement condemning Russia's unchecked imperialism and Putin's violation of international law. Boy, that Jamal Bowman is really revealing himself, even faster than AOC did, that he's a complete sellout piece of it.
Was he on Bill Maher not that long ago? I think he was, and he came off like, "Wow, you're going to like Congress practice to say all the things
yes,
with
yes.
like a big smile."
I don't know if he was. I don't watch Bill Maher that closely, but I'll look. Here's Cori Bush. She said we must impose swift sanctions targeted at Putin's oligarchs, who have made the Russian economy one of the most unequal in the world, unlike the United fucking States, huh?
Well, they have unchecked imperialism. You know how that sucks.
Yes, as well as the Russian military. Okay. She then says, I have long opposed mass, broad-based sanctions that would cause grave, deadly harm to civilians for the decisions of corrupt oligarchs. And in Russia is no different. Broad-based sanctions would not only be ineffective, but would also condemn a generation of Russians into poverty and mass suffering. Now, she's right when she says that, but it's weird because it sounded like here she was actually calling for sanctions, but she was calling for targeted sanctions. Now, I don't know what those are. And apparently, neither do the other people, because she then voted against these sanctions. Because she voted against them. So that's good that Cori Bush voted against them. Bauman's statement says nothing about U.S. imperialism and its 800 there's more than 800 military bases around the world. Instead, Bauman says that he is committed to supporting the Biden administration in holding Putin and his oligarchs accountable. So you see, the kind of slippery, slimy guy that Jamal Bowman actually
Members
is?
of the Congressional Progressive Caucus are catching heat following their decision to cave to pressure and withdraw a letter calling for the Biden administration to, maybe recalibrate its approach to the war in Ukraine. Given the destruction created by this war for Ukraine and the world, as well as the risk of catastrophic escalation, we also believe it is in the interests of Ukraine, the United States, and the world to avoid a prolonged conflict. For this reason, we urge you to pair the military and economic support the United States has provided to Ukraine with a proactive diplomatic push, redoubling efforts to seek a realistic framework for a ceasefire. So far, so good.
Welcome to a special edition, the Nazi Collaborator episode of the Nick and CJ Show. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
What's poppin', my friends, my family? I hope you guys are having a fantastic Labor Day weekend. Welcome to the Labor Day edition of the Nick and CJ Show. Here in the evening time, it's great to be at this time slot. I hope you guys having a fantastic holiday. I still have some family over here, so we got a few topics to cover for today, but I may be jumping out a little bit early, around 90 minutes. Hope you guys enjoy your time with your family. Right now, things are becoming extremely interesting. Because what did I tell you, CJ, a few weeks ago? Or maybe a few months ago, in fact. I told you that the NATO left have successfully dodged the issue of Ukraine for the most part. They was told to shut the fuck up by the establishment and regarding that issue. And for the most part, it benefit them as well. Because you get less cringy sound bites. You have less opportunities to be revealed as a DNC sheep. Propaganda for the military-industrial complex. But as the election heat up, CJ, and this is what I said weeks ago, how long could they continue to avoid this issue? When you have a presidential election where Donald Trump, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, the most vocal, most covered section of the right, is speaking out against the Ukraine war. And now we're going to have this funny-ass scene, CJ. It's going to be hilarious. The next year, where you have Bernie Sanders and AOC that is arguing against Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz to their right. And the insane right-wing Republicans that sound reasonable on war, as the progressives Bernie Sanders and AOC will call them Putin sympathizers and engage in neocon tactics. That's going to be the ultimate reveal. The mask of Bernie Sanders and AOC have long been lifted to the point where New York Times even have to address it. But when you see Bernie and AOC, like you're going to see here soon, go on the offensive on behalf of the Pentagon and the establishment, that's when the people who still apologize for it, they're going to lose all the credibility. CJ, any thoughts?
It's terrible. It's so funny, Nick, because the segments were kind of put together, and then an overall sort of theme came put together, and that's how we came up with the Nazi collaborators, because it was like, wait, everybody saw this thing that happened with Biden, the Nazis in Florida saying, hey, we're for Biden's. I saw that. And then I saw these defenses by Bernie Sanders and the AOC of Ukraine, of sending money over to the Nazis in Ukraine. It was just like, wow, this is really showing itself, because in the article we're going to cover, and we're going to get to that in just a second, in the article, it clearly says, in this corporate progressive leaning article, it says the phrasing is something like AOC finds herself aligning with hawkish Republicans. This is where we're at. And we no, go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
Sorry, my bad, CJ. But to point out the title of our stream, and this is why RBN was labeled the most extreme left network according to media in the country, because we have the audacity to reject civility politics, and I want us to use plain language to call out the sellouts of the ruling class. And we're going to cover Krystal Ball later. We have another Krystal Ball, get her ass beat by her old arguments. And you know, as the PMC class try to get you to like, oh yeah, I know they fucking up, but come on, man, chill. Yeah, they fucking up, but come on, man, chill. Yeah, you gotta disagree with this one thing. Come on, chill. You guys see how they always want us to chill?
Yeah.
You see how they try to relax us with toxic positivity? At what point do we call Nazi collaborators what they are? At what point do we use the same language that was used to support whenever anyone collaborated with Hitler and the Nazis in the 1940s? Here's to show you guys, I am not being over dramatic because a lot of people forgot their history. And as a communist, who Nazis are our ideological mortal enemy, we call out and we aggressively fight against anyone who is a Nazi collaborator. Anyone, aggressively call them out. And look at the definition of collaboration. I only need to read the first part. Collaboration refers to the act of working together or cooperating with an enemy or an opposing group. CJ, does it say except when you're fighting Putin? Does it say it there? Does it say
when you're defending democracy?
Does it say except when you're fighting against Russia, when you're defending Ukraine? No. Collaboration is when you're working with an enemy or opposing group towards a common goal. As you see, you're working together or cooperating. And I literally seen NATO leftists on Twitter say, yeah, we don't like Nazis, but isn't it a good thing that Nazis are fighting Russia on our behalf? You're collaborating with a Nazi. That's literally definition. There are people put on trial for less than what you guys are doing. You guys support, and I'm talking about the ruling class left and their people that apologize for them, the people that support the Ukraine war in terms of media and the establishment, correct? Your guys' votes are directly responsible for escalating the climate crisis. The Ukraine war has been horrible for the environment. You guys are supporting the Nord Stream bomber. You guys claim to be against gun violence, but you voted to create a black market boom of weapons in Eastern Europe, in Nazi groups, white supremacist groups all over the world by having influx of guns and weapons. But you think you're on the left. When you're a Nazi collaborator, you helped armed Nazis. So what's the theme that I'm bringing? Right? We all got all different themes. Tell you guys my theme for next year is I'm treating Biden supporters just like they would treat Trump supporters. The same way regarding Ukraine. This is how I'm moving forward. And I'm being very aggressive about this. This is why NATO leftists can't say our damn name. Covering the media bias chart, like all being far to the left, and these niggas scared to say our name.
Nick, I don't know if I covered it, but I talked about this because he says the two people right next to us. Oh, here's TYT and Lee Camp. TYT and Lee Camp. And it's an awkward pause where because he didn't prepare a transition to skip over us. So he goes Lee Camp and TYT, and then he goes. And then we move over here to the right. And it's like, oh, this is so obvious. It's so obvious.
Guys,
go ahead.
So if Kyle Kalinske and all these people covering the story, like everyone is doing it, and then people been pinning me like, you see this shit? Like people like purposely ignoring talking about us on the list, even though we're the farthest right. If you watch their coverage, everyone is mentioning Alex Jones. You know, the guy farthest to the right. So you're gonna mention the guy farthest to the right, but not the people farthest to the left. You know why they do that, guys? Because we aggressively call out the NATO left. We don't believe in the tranquilizing drug known as civility politics. Oh, yeah, Krystal Ball is selling us out, but she's a friend. It would be rude to call her out. Isn't she? Yeah, she's a friend of mine. I can't call her out. She's a friend. Wouldn't it be rude if we call out these people for being wrong? No, either you are right or wrong. We reject the term purity test. Purity test, if you say you reject purity test, you're admitting you're impure. Take the inverse of what they're saying, right? That is what it means. So we're going to use plain language. We're going to use the language of the working class. The Armenian community is going to continue to scare the shit out of the millionaire leftists because they used to people walking on eggshells around these issues. Yeah, they funding Nazis in Ukraine. Yeah, they're Nazi collaborators. Yeah, they're supporting a fucking strikebreaker, Jim Crow Joe. But we're supposed to be okay with it. We're supposed to be gentle with these people because they believe in Medicare for all, CJ. Yeah, they find Nazis, but come on, Medicare for all. That's the mindset that poisoned the left, fam. The U.S. left has been poisoned. Why do you think the U.S. left is considered a joke, not only among our country, but in the global South, among Eastern Asian communists? The United States left is considered a joke. Talk to global South. People in the global South. Go ahead, CJ. I know you want to try me. Go ahead.
Yeah, the natural sort of application or analogy for the layman's analogy, I should say, that's a better way of saying it. The layman's analogy of purity test. Because purity test is like politics. If you were to tell the average person, and don't use purity text, truth test. Like the bar is truth. Like, what are you, a truther? What are you, believe in truth? That's literally what that means. Like, you're saying you're gonna die on your beliefs, and that's bad. That's the same thing as saying you're dying on yourself telling the truth, and that's bad. A regular person would be like, no, that's not bad. You should be telling the truth to the day you die or until your deathbed, whatever expression you want to use. It's the same thing for purity tests. It's not a purity test to say, hey, Palestinians, that's a red line. No, I'm not. That's non-negotiable. If you are down with supporting Israel, the apartheid state, the genocidal state, Palestinian network, the genocidal state of Israel, that's just what it is. But let's just move right into the topic, Nick, since we're already talking about it. Here's the first one. It's the same topic, but let's start with this article here. And I already have the snippets. We're not going to read the whole article just for the sake of time so we can get to all the topics. Quote, there's a real clear danger here. That's a quote. And that's AOC on 2024, the climate crisis and selling out. Now, we're going to zero in on the selling out part. And you notice they have quotes within the quotes over selling out, as if it's questionable, as if it's in question. So let me bring this down and let me read these little snippets I got, little excerpts, I should say, I have here. And let's start with this one. I mean, this is really it. You may have some more of the article that you want to go over, but I took out the key parts to what we're going to cover today. Yeah. So, well, I'll just read my whole tweet. So it said, AOC is on a PR tour with corporate media in an attempt to whitewash her betrayals. Now, if we notice, Nick, in the last week or so, we've covered 3 articles on AOC. She is on a PR tour. She hears what Mediaite is reporting about us. Though that RBN group, guys, they don't like no squad. So they're hearing that, not just from us, but, and all of our comrades. And now listen for this excerpt from this article. And I think this is The Guardian. Sorry. So this is The Guardian.
Look at this first part. So, CJ, do you mind if I cover this first part?
No, go ahead. Be my guest. Listen
to this. This shows you guys why there's miles of difference between the AOC quote unquote left and the most extreme, dangerous left network in the country. Listen to this part. And I'm only going to read the first sentence. I'll pass to you because I got a lot to say on it. I just skimmed ahead. For the left, the war in Ukraine is potentially more complicated. Pause. What are you talking about? See, this is the same thing, fam. This is the same thing that they do regarding the Israel-Palestine conflict. Whenever you're in the wrong on a very easy issue to get right, you're like, come on, man, this is a complicated issue. The Israel-Palestine, that's a complicated issue. No, it is not. That is an issue of settler colonialism. And everyone, you have people in the Middle East, you have people in the global South, South Africa, Nelson Mandela and their movement, who call out Israel. Israel not recognized by many countries in the world because they see through this. It's not a hard issue to get wrong. Now, regarding Ukraine war, what did I tell you guys? You can talk about the history. You can talk about the Maidan coup. You can talk about the fact that the Ukrainian government shelled and committed ethnic cleansing against the Russian people, including banning their language. Around 13,000 people died in the Donbass that was killed by the Ukrainian government. You can talk about all that, right? But ideologically, I'm a socialist. I'm a communist. Ideologically, AOC, aren't you socialist? So why are you saying this is complicated? Because I said many times on RBN, history aside, CJ, facts aside, Zelensky aside, the Minsk Accord aside, socialists and communists are always inherently against funding Nazis. It doesn't matter what the story was, CJ. Doesn't fucking matter. So when she's saying it's complicated, no, it's not. There's the Azov Battalion and Banderites that left organizations been warning against funding for years. So it's not complicated. You don't fund Nazis, period. What's complicated about that, CJ? What's complicated
nothing at all. Nothing.
Anyway, I'll let you continue. That's the point I want to make. They always pretend that the wars and the conflict that the United States get wrong is somehow complicated. Oh, Gaddafi, that's a complicated situation, CJ. They don't try to overthrow Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela, complicated. Guys, when you read and you witness empire propaganda as long as I have, you see patterns. AOC, one sentence in, I read a little bit of this article, is already repeating state propaganda already. And I'm passing you so you can continue. She puts on the clinic, CJ. Someone sat her down when I read this and drilled her on exactly what you say. But I'll pass to you. You guys see. No, you guys can see why I mean as we continue. But go ahead, CJ.
Where did you?
I just read the first sentence.
Okay, all right. So here we go. But U.S. support for Ukraine has put critics of the military-industrial complex. Now I'm going to read this separately and then go back to the sentence. Let me just read what's in parentheses here. The government spends about $900 billion a year on defense, around 15% of the federal budget, or 3.3% of the gross national product. So I just wanted to read that, and now I'm going to go back and read the sentence complete. But U.S. support for Ukraine has put critics of the military-industrial complex in the uncomfortable position of rooting for the Pentagon and endorsing a windfall for defense contractors. Longtime skeptics of U.S. imperialism suddenly find themselves, and this is the part I said earlier, aligned with Republican hawks. Now, this, Nick, I'll pause here. This is one of the professional managerial classes publications. It's one of their better ones, but this is still one of their. So to hear this from them is quite not shocking, but it's eye-opening to me that they're this. Yeah, it's a tell. That's a better way of saying it, because they're describing her as a critic. They're describing her and progressives overall. They're critics of the military-industrial complex typically, but this putting them in an uncomfortable position for rooting for them. This is the part that really is eye-opening to me. And endorsing a windfall for defense contractors, Nick. Go ahead. That's eye-opening that they admit
to that point. I have made a point on this show, and I'll keep bringing up to Bernie Simps on Twitter. You can be emotional. You can have these fatherly feelings for Bernie all you fucking want, you Simps. But here's a fact. Bernie Sanders made a vote, and that vote led to a boom of Raytheon and Boeing defense contractors, which is a massive and permanent L on your record, Bernie. This is why people like Michael Prenti abandoned Bernie Sanders long ago, because he is now enabling imperialism. Because CJ, the Pentagon and the United States government, I know they lied before, but surely they're telling the truth this time. That's what the Bernie left want us to believe. And Bernie Sanders and AOC, who paint themselves as a critic of the military-industrial complex, you know we're the smart left on RBN, right? You know there's the dumb left. CJ, these are the people who only listen to politicians' words. You know Bernie and AOC say they're anti-war. Why you guys don't like them? AOC says she don't like war. AOC and Bernie says they don't like corruption. Why you question them? And then there's the real smart left, the RBN left, who we don't care what the fuck you say, fam. What you tweet about and what you say is irrelevant. What are you voting for? What power are you enabling? That's why you don't have to pay attention to Bernie's tweets no more. He got a live stream going to do today that I'm sure he's going to do great, made a few hundred views. No one watches him anymore. Because it does not matter because they virtue signal, they grandstand, they hot dog in front of the camera, and then they vote for empire. So in this article, they say, yo, these people were critics of the military-industrial complex. I would not agree with that sentence. They pretend they are, but they've been voting with the war for years. But I'll let you continue, CJ. I'm gonna have a lot to say, so I need to cut myself short. Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, no problem.
I text you. I read the first I read the first 2-3 paragraphs. I decided to stop because I'm like, all right, dude, I'm gonna destroy this month. I don't need to read more. I cover it. I watched CJ present it live. I was like, this is unbelievable. They're being forced to talk about this. Anyway, sorry, go ahead, CJ. There's gonna be a lot for me to say. So go ahead.
Yeah. So let's go to this other excerpt, and then we'll bring up the actual article for any other bits and pieces we want to touch on. Now, understand this is part of what it's a companion. It's speaking to that. These aren't two separate paragraphs. They're back to back. So AOC articulates the uneasy accommodation that they just referred to, and here's the quote: "It's a legitimate conversation. I think on one hand," now let me pause here. Typically, Nick, when somebody says, "I think on one hand," they tell you about the other hand. So they try to give both sides. That's why they're saying it's a hard. She doesn't do that. She only gives the talking points for the State Department only. Yeah. And then she never goes, but on the other hand, never does that.
That's a great point, CJ.
So here's the quote again. "It's a legitimate conversation. I think on one hand, it is important for us to underscore what a dramatic threat to global order." That's funny that she uses that, global order. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if she knows what she's saying or she knows what she's saying. You know what I mean?
No, she knows what she's saying. So
global order.
This is the part where I think this is why I texted you, CJ, when I got to this part. Because why would any socialist or any anti-establishment fighter, no matter how you want to label yourself, be someone who supports the current global order of hypocrisy? How many Nick at Night, how many segments have I done? Okay. How many guests like Maury Kimberly, right, that we had on that explain the hypocrisy and the ridiculousness of the Western rules-based order? The Western rules-based order says that the United States can sanction, starve, and bomb as many civilians as they want with no consequence, and they can overthrow any democratically elected government that they disagree with. That is the rules-based order that anyone should be trying to looking to overthrow if you're a radical anti-establishment. But AOC is saying we gotta protect this imperial capitalist order. So how does people who have this belief, CJ, how are they the closest allies we have? At what point do you become a straight up enemy? She is propping up and trying to defend the global order that destroyed, robbed, and stole the wealth of our people, CJ. That's who these are the people
that's who she's representing,
who committed genocide in Yemen, bombed Somalia, can help fund and was complicit with the genocide of the Palestinian people, funding Cop City, stole our wealth via civil asset forfeiture, stole the lands of indigenous people in the United States. But AOC want to defend this global order? But Ryan Graham's still like her. Many progressives still like her. She is a straight up enemy and asset of white supremacy. You guys understand? This is why they're scared of us on RBN. That's why we are the most extreme left, because we are calling AOC someone who's complicit with white supremacy. That is a statement that blows the mind of the brain left, that makes them immediately block us. But that is literally what she's saying here, fam. That is not hyperbole. She is defending the global order, which many progressives would agree is white supremacists. CJ, Olayemi, who loves AOC, right? Olayemi and all these boutique leftists will write an article in Jacobin talk about how the United States and the West is a white supremacist society, right? They will do all these complex analysis of how our society is evil, correct, CJ? But then they turn around and say, I want to defend this evil order. What the fuck? Now you guys know why RBN look at these people as side-eyed as I look at Republicans? You know how bad the system is, and you still want people to die to defend it. That is unhinged, fam. And when are people going to call it out?
Now, the words, see, the thing about AOC, when she's talking off the cuff, she tries her best to say within the lines of the ruling class establishment. But her problem is because she's so word salady, and I just made that up, word salady, she throws in words that are a tell. And I think global order is a tell here. And in a sense, and I was just thinking this as you were speaking, so maybe what you were saying is what sort of spurred this opinion here, and that is, does she understand what's going on more than we think? Because global order, so let me read this again. It is important for us to underscore, right? So again, so to your point. So to underscore what a dramatic threat to the global order Russia's invasion of Ukraine is. Now, understand what she's saying. She's saying the threat of the invasion is Russia's invasion is what is a threat to the global order. What is the global order? That NATO encircles Russia and takes them over? Isn't that the global order? So isn't she telling us she understands exactly what the hell's going on with NATO without telling us? Like, is this a tale or something, coach? Like something, this is, I don't know. It just rubs me away in a way where I would be highly suspicious of the person who is trying to pretend they only know surface level what's going on and we're trying to do this for freedom. Because this sentence, Nick, tells you this is not about freedom and democracy.
Yep, absolutely, CJ. Fantastic analysis. Let me read the next part. Look at this.
Yeah, go ahead.
She mentioned, she said we got to it's important for us to underscore what the dramatic threat to the global order Russia's invasion of Ukraine continues to be. We just read that. Look at this part. We must defend democracy. Where have you guys heard that before? Now, do you guys see why? I see value. I see value in of us doing propaganda report. I see value of us showing you guys what Morning Joe say. We want to show you guys what the establishment say. So when our quote unquote allies say it, we're like, we got you. Where you get that from? Where AOC getting her messaging from? Is it from the left? Is it from Black Agenda Report? Is it from Lula, who been speaking out this war? No, she's getting her talking points on this war directly from Morning Joe, directly from Anderson Cooper, Ali Vesci, all these people. She wanted to defend a democracy that banned workers' ability to organize, fam. That Ukraine banned workers to collectively bargain. Ukraine banned socialist and communist parties while leaving fascist parties untouched. We got to do that because we're in wartime, so let's leave the fascists up and running. Get rid of the socialists. AOC wants to defend a democracy that banned socialists, fam. That banned workers' ability to collectively organize. That is unhinged,
and
fam.
crazy.
I want our community to repeat this. I'm tired of this tepid bullshit where it's like, oh, it's small disagreements. They can't. No, they are, the AOC left, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely unhinged in the dear Lord year 2023. Literally as crazy as you think Marty Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz is, which I think they're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs too. I view AOC and Bernie at the same light. She is trying to defend a democracy that is literally propped up by fascists that wage war against socialists and communists. Oh, sweet Lord.
You can't write this in a movie. A socialist is funding Nazis to ban socialists in that country. You could not write that. David Sirota could not write that in the script. But let's continue what it says here. I'm going to reread your part and then continue. It says,
go ahead.
We must defend democracy. We cannot allow this reversion into almost a late 19th century imperial invasion order. This is where she's getting coached.
She's been coached.
A late 19th century imperial invasion order. It is so incredibly disabling and dangerous. And I'll read this final line. We must fight against that precedence. We must protect the democracy of Ukraine and the sovereignty of Ukraine 100%.
Ukraine is not a sovereign country. The sweet summer child. There's so much there. She is definitely being coached. And the Bernie AOC and Ro Khanna left knows better because they used to support bans on funding these neo-Nazis in Ukraine. And now they're talking about defending the sovereignty of this country. The Ukraine, with the help of the CIA, overthrew a democratically elected government in 2014 and ethnically cleansed Russian people as the will of the Azov battalion and neo-Nazi banderites in Ukraine. And the majority of Ukrainian people don't want this. This is when people say, oh, you think all Ukrainians are Nazis? No. Ukrainian Nazis dominate politics because there's people who are advocating for peace. And guess what happened? The banderites in Ukraine waged political violence like Nazis fucking do, CJ. What do Nazis do? Nazi shit. What does the tiger do? Some tiger ass shit. What does the lion do? The lion fucks some deer up, doesn't he? Right? That's exactly what the lion does. What the hyena does. The hyena scavenge. So what do Nazis do? Nazis do Nazi shit, CJ. So they use political violence to intimidate anyone who advocated for peace with the Donbass and Odessa region, the people who wanted to be more part of Russia, the people who support independence from the Ukrainian state, that a coup was done under. So in order to solidify support for these people who wanted to lead this country, you had banderite Nazis who engaged in political violence to silence dissent. People in Ukraine just afraid to speak out against the banderites. Zelensky, who ran on a peace platform, afraid to run on the platform he ran on because he knows he's going to get killed by the banderite Nazis. Anyway, CJ, I'll let you continue.
Yeah, so I do want to insert a couple of your tweet in particular because you literally used the phrasing Nazi collaborator in it. This is where I saw this tweet and I was like, Aaron, put that on the flyer. Nazi. I said sympathizer first, but then I saw this and I was like, no, it should be collaborator. But anyway, so I wanted to insert this part before I bring up the article and read a little bit more of the article. This is your tweet, and I think it fits. The NATO left and everyone who supports arming Nazis in Ukraine forever destroyed their credibility. Bernie, AOC, Ilhan Omar, and every progressive supporting the Ukraine war are Nazi collaborators. And the reason you said this was because of this tweet from Max Blumenthal, where he quotes a Nazi in Florida that supports Joe Biden because Joe Biden supports what, Nick? The Ukraine war and his brothers over there in Ukraine. Now, some conservatives are saying this is an op, but before I play the video, this is what Max Blumenthal says. He says, quote, Biden's better than Trump because he sends rockets to Ukraine, end quote. That's what this neo-Nazi blood tribe leader, Christopher P., stated at a 9-2 Florida rally. Kent Boneface McClellan, ex-volunteer for Ukraine state-backed Azov regime. I can't even say that if I could. Psych held. And Belowed, Slave Ukraini. Yeah, so let's play this 40-second video, then we'll get to the article. If you want to chime in, just let me know. And we've all seen this. It's just them being Nazis. Let's listen to what they say.
Christopher, there's a presidential race going on right now. Are you going to vote in 2024? What do you think is going to happen?
My vote is useless. I think Biden's better than Trump because he sends rockets to Ukraine.
So there's a lot of right wingers that are in shambles and denial because these are the people who they want to ignore the fact that these people exist, that these Nazis exist in this country because they want to re-glorify our culture and make our country seem more sophisticated than it really is. It's hard for them to admit that their community that they view as the best, most enlightened culture has the white supremacists in it, right? So there are a lot of people on the right that calling these people ops, and we call out ops because there are people who moved and there are people who act like ops. Fam, this guy is not fair. Why would he say this? Is the United States government and the establishment want to sugarcoat and hide the fact that Biden is arming Nazis in Ukraine, right? So why would a Fed support a talking point that the CIA do not want out there? So this guy is 100% legit. And as Max Blumenthal covered earlier, and you guys are going to see in the video, I believe, or one of the videos, it's showing the Boneface guy. He was an ex-volunteer of the Azov Battalion in regime. So these are the people that the Democratic Party, AOC, and Bernie Sanders are literally working with. They are collaborating with this guy with the same end goal of fighting Russia. So play the beginning, we can let it play all the way through from there. I want them to hear that part again, and we can let it play some more.
For sure. All right, here we go, guys.
Christopher, there's a presidential race going on right now. Are you going to vote in 2024? What do you think is going to happen?
My vote is useless. I think Biden's better than Trump because he sends rockets to Ukraine.
In support of Ukraine, you mean?
Hell Ukraine. Hell Azov.
Slava Ukraina!
Tell me this, Christopher.
Come back to sing your fucking dreidel, you fucking reborn slave! Slava Ukraina!
You're like Skullface from Marvel,
Boneface.
Right? Boneface, sorry.
I'm Boneface.
What inspired you to kind of tattoo up like this?
Ukraine.
Christopher, there's a
What? I didn't see that part, Nick. He said he got tatted up because of Ukraine?
Yeah, they all got tats. They've been having a hard time hiding them, CJ. They're like, oh, man, come on. This Putin propaganda, there's so many Nazis in Ukraine. Meanwhile, they can't hide these motherfuckers who got tattoos everywhere on their face. They got Nazi teardrops and shit.
Jeez.
So, and that guy, like, if this organization was feds, and I think the Patriot Front are feds, this is a different organization in Florida, completely separate from that. Patriot Front, 100% feds. But I want you guys to understand the federal government and the establishment are hiding the fact that we want to, that Biden is funding Nazis in Ukraine. So it don't make sense that a Fed organization will point this out and give us a clip that is a massive L for the talking points of the NATO left and establishment. You guys know what I mean? I think we can be intellectual enough to see the distinction between people who behave in a way that benefits the establishment. For example, the Patriot Front organization, like the police literally blocked people from following them on the subway. Why would you do that? They did that so people wouldn't follow them and see where they went. Meanwhile, these people open. You see how they scattered it in? Like there was no massive protection here. A lot of them didn't wear masks, like that guy, the guy with the full tattoo face, and the Patriot Front. Other people wore masks like crazy. That's is a damning clip for the NATO left. And I got a prediction, CJ. TYT is not going to cover that. Majority Front is not going to cover that. David Doe's not going to cover that. Mike Figueredo's not going to cover that, man. But CJ, I'll pass to you. You have anything else you want to add?
Yeah. So instead of bringing up the article, I forgot. I already took out the excerpts, and it makes it a little quicker here. Here's one of the excerpts from the article. Instead of reading the whole article, we got two excerpts. Quote, AOC is just another regular old Democrat now, end quote, ran a headline on New York Magazine Intelligency website in July. The article's author, Freddie DeBauer, argued that AOC appearance on the podcast, the Pod Save America podcast, to announce her endorsement of Joe Biden for president in the 2024 election was her last kiss-off to the radicals who had supported her, voted for her, donated to her campaign, and made her unusually famous in politics. Go ahead.
Go back to that quote. Last kiss off to radicals who had supported her, voted for her, donated to her campaign, and made her unusually famous in politics. You guys see, like, that's largely the argument that we use in talking about how they betray us. Like, we made you guys, and then we supposed to be okay with you guys betraying us like this, right? But anyway, you can continue. I just want, like, did people see the criticism that we have of the progressives in Congress? But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, and then the next excerpt here, for the left. Wait, did I read this part? Yeah, I read this part. We read. So these other two snippets are the parts that we already read. But the point being here, and I do want to go back because I did have another point on here when she says this part, Nick, and we could probably close up and move on to the next topic in a little bit here. But this part here, to me, is where, to your point, where you said she's obviously being coached. And anytime you're being coached, Nick, you know how when you're being coached, there's certain things that your coach is telling you that's sort of like behind the scenes. There's not anything you're supposed to go out and, you know, say. It's like, this is the part you say in front of the camera. This is the part I'm just telling you. Right. And then, but with AOC, some of the things that she is being told, like when she mentions global order, I'm not necessarily thinking that was told by her coach to say, specifically said this. This is just what she remembers in the conversation, how they were referring to it as the global order. These guys are trying to fuck it up. But this particular part, I do think she was specifically coached to insert this particular part about the Ukrainian Russian conflict, where she says, we cannot allow this reversion into almost a late 19th century imperial invasion order. And I'm going to go look this up after today because I'm curious to know what 19th century imperial, what is that? Because it could be a specific reference, Nick, is what I'm getting to. And I'm curious.
It's purposely vague, fam. Like, so you guys gotta remember, the United States is the most propagandized country in the world. People think they're getting real news on CNN and MSNBC, even though they lie by omission all the time. So they want you to use your imagination when they say that. And that's why AOC has been coached. And that's why I believe it's so important for us to study, analyze, and understand the propaganda that's come from our ruling class. Let the era and the age of the dumb left die. We need to be studious, fam. We need to be on our heel. We need to watch the language that these imperialists say. So because we watch what Anthony Blinken said, we listen to what Mike Pence say, what Krystal say, and they always say the same thing, CJ, the same line. We cannot allow this reversion into almost a late 19th century imperial invasion order. And then she explained how the Putin invasion is a threat to the world order that she want to protect for some reason. No critical thinking behind that. But that's the same language that you hear from Mike Pence, Krystal, every single person on Morning Joe, Ali Vesci, and all these people, right? So if we have a left that understand the language that they use, see through propaganda patterns, that allow us to see through people who try to infiltrate and sheepdog us. The European left is completely fucked, fam. Why you guys think I dragged Howie Hawkins so hard? Why you guys think that we are so hard on the NATO left? Because you have the Green Party in the UK, the Green Party in Sweden and in France, who literally flipped on their position of NATO in the last 2 years. There's a coordinated effort to turn the left to weakless, intellectually weak apologists for the Western global order. And you see how AOC is more than happy to play her role to sheepdog her millions of followers to that same conclusion. They are probably some of the most effective PR agents of the empire because they are the progressive, friendly face of the empire. AOC is here to put a smiley face in the emoji on the empire, fam. It's important.
The reason why, to me, they're more insidious and just more terrible is a couple of reasons. One, these are the people in charge, put in charge by the ruling powers to get the younger generation involved in this nonsense. That's one of the top reasons why, to me, that makes them one of the most disgusting. And couple that with they're doing this while acting like they're not corrupted by money. So you're taking money from poor and working people and doing this. So those two things, in doing this in order to entangle, I'll use that word, entangle young people into believing this stuff, like Harry Sisson. I think that's his name, like Harry Sisson. But go ahead, Nick.
I just want to put that up because we're here to remind people of the past. The United States have amnesia. The Bernie Sanders left are trying their best to be complicit in this amnesia, because I showed you before. I'll play it back up. You had Congress and the progressive members of Congress, and progressives been advocating globally for a while for Congress to ban arms to Ukraine militia neo-Nazis, correct? Now the AOC and Bernie left will deny this vigorously to this day. To this day. Like when I see the Voss NATO debate, when he debate people on NATO, he had a debate with Eddie Liger, our friend, our family at Midwestern Marks. I always watch the debate because I'm always interested. I'm not interested in what Voss had to say. He's just a figurehead. I'm interested in seeing what the NATO left argument is to the Ukraine war. And Voss is, to his credit, to be fair, he's one of the few people that willing to debate who's like openly Democratic. So he won the people that debate. So that's the only reason I'm forced to watch them. And their argument, for real, like Eddie Liger bring up neo-Nazis in Ukraine. Their only argument is just straight up deny it, CJ. They say, "Oh, it's overblown. No, there's no Nazis in Ukraine. You European and Putin talk about it." That's always the argument. That's why I show you guys this shit all the time. Ro Khanna had a tweet in 2019. Ridiculous. Ro Khanna had a tweet in 2019 where he called out them reversing this. Because you guys see how this in 2018? They reversed this ban, right? And then Ro Khanna was upset and say, "Hey, we need to reestablish the ban on neo-Nazis in Ukraine that we had." He was upset about that. And then the Ukraine war happened, and then he deleted his tweet.
Weak ass.
So, fam, I'm asking you guys this question. If Ro Khanna and the NATO left are intellectually honest, why would Ro Khanna delete his tweet calling out funding of neo-Nazis in Ukraine? So that's why it's extremely important for us to correct the record. And I'll explain this to a friend I know before who was tricked by the establishment, one of my friends in real life. And I was explaining to him, like, I have my position, and he agreed with me at the interview. I was like, you understand what the Banderite Nazis in Ukraine have done? They attacked Muslims. They have attacked the Romani people. They advocated for ethnically cleansing the Russian people because they view the Russians as orc. They view Russians as subhuman garbage and a genetic sin to the white race, because they view Russians as impure white people who was colonized by the Mongols. So the Russians are part of the Asiatic horde. And this is literally what Stefan Bandera said. And this is what Bandera said. We got to purge the Asiatic horde of Russia because they don't view them as white people. And the ideology of Nazis is having one people in one state. That's what the Banderites and Nazis talk about all the time. And that's why they led an ethnic cleansing of the Russian people. That's why they put to ban the Russian language, because they wanted the white Aryan people to dominate Ukraine, just like Nazis do. Like dogs play fetch. Cats hunt mice. You know what I mean? That's what Nazis do. That's what I'm trying to explain. So I explained to my friend, no matter if you think the Russian invasion is horrible, because you want people like me, I think I'm just anti-war. I think it's horrific. Like, yeah, I understand that. But there's a giant problem with the Western media complex, including progressives, whitewashing the crimes of the Nazis in Ukraine. I'm like, you guys know how horrible that is? I told him this stuff because he's just a Norman. He was like, I didn't even know that stuff. And I'm like, isn't it fair to say it's horrible to whitewash the crimes of these people and arm them? He could agree to that. So that's the big problem. And this is why Bernie Sanders, AOC, and the NATO left are Nazi collaborators, because they're complicit with the West whitewashing the crimes of the Banderite regime. And I am just scratching the surface, fam. You can do an entire hour live stream talking about the violence and the terrorism that the Banderite Nazis have spread over the last decade or two in Ukraine. Anyway, I'll spare you guys. I'll pass you, CJ.
Oh, you can read super chats and then I'll bring up the next topic. I'm ready to go right into Bernie.
We got a few
go
here.
ahead.
Thank you for 999 Janice. I think we should stop letting them self-identify as left. Being left requires being anti-war and poor, working class centric. They don't meet the most basic criteria to qualify as the left. And I completely agree with you, Janice. And that's why we blow the mind of establishment folks like Media who label RBN the most extreme left group. Because to them, the idea of calling Bernie Sanders and AOC on the left is crazy, CJ. To them, Bernie Sanders and AOC is Malcolm X and Lenin back. You know what I mean? Bernie Sanders and AOC is extremely far left as far as they're concerned, right? So they see RBN and they don't even know how to classify it. They say put them at the most extreme. In this concept, guys, because language exists for a reason, whether they're bad trends or good trends. Right now, people view Bernie Sanders and AOC as the left. That's why I created the term NATO left, because you have people on the left that consider themselves left that support NATO. The term is meant to be contradictory. You know what I mean? It meant to elicit thought. Yeah. So you're like, NATO left? What do you mean? You can't be on the left when you support NATO. Yes, that's the point. The term is
oxymoron.
Yeah, it's an oxymoron to show you guys how ridiculous it is to have Vosh and Bernie's position, and how ridiculous it is that the entire establishment media and Overton Window consider these people on the left. That's why I call them NATO left. And if people put back and say, "Oh, if you support NATO, you're not on the left," yes, that's the point. The point is the oxymoronic term. But thank you for the super chat, Janice. Thank you for the $5. Marvin for the solidarity super sticker and abiding as well. Appreciate the support. 2 more super chats. I'll pass to you, CJ. Frank Johnson, thank you for the $4.99. These folks talking about Trump, but Biden got bone face. We really watching the empire collapse from the inside. Absolutely. Last super chat, I'll pass to you. The next segment should be a good one. Thank you for the $10. DJ Design. Y'all finally saying how most of us feel about politics. You know how many people told us that? CJ, I'll continue with the super chat, but let's pause on that point. There are people from Sweden that said they watched the show. I got a message from the guy said solidarity from Iceland. I'm like, damn. People from Brazil watch us. You know what I mean? There's some guy who's like solidarity from Hong Kong before. Like, we got people all over the world that watch us, right? There are people on the right who watch us. I get people message me all the time. They're like, I generally don't agree with social. I don't people on the left, but I appreciate RBN, right? Mm-hmm. But you guys see how, despite that, Mediaite still label us the most extreme left, because we engage in unfair persuasion, CJ. It's unfair how RBN have politics that connect with multiple people across ages and genders. It's unfair persuasion.
And countries and borders.
Yeah.
And another reason why I like to go at night, Nick and I were talking offline how we were thinking about doing this show more at night. It's because of those international, because if you think, if it's 9 o'clock-ish East Coast, that means it's 9 a.m.-ish overseas. So they're just waking up, and they're waking up to us, you know, they're waking up to the Nick and CJ show. So welcome all of our international people watching. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, it's very shocking when we see it, the amount of people that watch it in all over the world. So but we're in the most extreme left, right? But anyway, that's a very thought-provoking comment. Let me read the rest of this. Y'all finally saying how most of us feel about politics. And sorry, I gotta say one more thing. Because people always ask me, and our channel would benefit if I just shut the fuck up sometimes. You know what I mean? And because if I was one of those people that didn't use the word communist and socialist, and you guys know there's a lot of people who purposely do that because they don't want to turn people off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It would be a much better business decision if I stop calling myself a socialist and communist, right? It will allow us to attract more viewers to our channel. The reason why I decided not to do that, because I want people to understand this guy's point. The establishment wants you to fear communists and socialists, but we got fucking poor Southern white people saying they agree. I'm not saying this guy is. I don't know this guy's background, but the point is, I want to normalize, and I want you guys to break free with the establishment what you think a communist is, what you think a socialist is. So there are people that think socialism and communists are crazy, but then right-wingers are like, dude, I like what this guy say. I don't know how to feel about that. So the point is to normalize it. So yeah, it would be better business decision if I shut the fuck up and never mention it. But I want people to realize that you guys have way more in common with socialists and communists than you think if you've been brainwashed by Cold War propaganda. Gen X and boomers grew up under Cold War propaganda. And one of my goals, and one of the reasons why I got this in the first place, is to normalize our ideas. To let you know that we agree on empire, that we had the benefit of the working class in place. This idea that you have that we are authoritarian, violent thugs is ridiculous. We are the most democratic. Look at our politics. But I went on a rant. I'll finish. But that's to that point. Y'all saying how most of us feel about politics. So decolonize your mind and stop being afraid of the socialists and communists. We are the ones who want to build community. We are the ones who are not afraid of your neighbors. Meanwhile, you got capitalists, you got right-wingers, you got white America that's shooting people in the face for knocking on their door. That's the capitalist mindset that breeds. I'm meeting my community. I'm talking to my community, getting my community school supplies. I am building our community and organizing the way that socialist and communist does. Meanwhile, on the right, they're shooting you in the face if you knock on the door. If you look at them and assume, you guys know them people? That's the capitalist individualistic mindset have you doing. Have you afraid of your neighbors? Have you afraid of talking to people? So I'm very chatty during the super chats, but let's continue. Now we get to the last segment or this next segment. I think I got two more segments.
It's two. I only got two.
Yeah, I got family around, so that's why it's gonna be a little bit shorter day today. Short day. I got family around, so we can do.
It's a holiday. Same here. I didn't plan it. I told you I had all day, and the end of my family came over, mom and sister, so they're all downstairs. So we're gonna be eating at our normal time. So I should be good, but 90 minutes is good with me, Nick. Maybe two more segments.
Yeah, I'll read this last.
Any other super chats?
I'll read the last. I'll read the rest of the super chats after the next segment, fam. So I'll finish this one. I pass you, CJ. The awful mainstream media and y'all have the ideology needed for hip hop culture, because we have straight establishment simps out here in the rap game. And RBN, I don't know why this lane been open. RBN, Black Power Media, are fans of Black Power Media. We need to set up a panel. I was on their show a few weeks ago. It's long overdue for us to do another Black Power Media RBN panel, but they do this. They call out them as well. Black culture, they still largely simp for these people. It's very disappointing. But we call the black capitalists for what they are. When I see these portrayals, it literally don't surprise me anymore. Meanwhile, I'll shut the fuck up. I'll read the rest of the super chats after this segment, fam. So if you guys have any comments, feel free to leave super chats. I'll get to them next. But go ahead, CJ, I'll pass it for you for a second time. Let's continue.
Yeah. So let's set up this segment. And I was surprised to see this. It kind of flew under the radar, the whole interview. And then when I saw the full interview, I heard this comment. We're going to play it in a second, but
it's flying under the radar. And CJ, I just want to interrupt you on that point just real quick. One reason why this is flying under the radar, because I noticed that the NATO Bernie left don't cover them as much anymore.
That is true.
I don't like, you know how they are hiding their fans of how badly they sold out. So when you guys see when Bernie Sanders go on these Biden spills and these Democratic talking points spills, they will never cover that at all. And then I would see David Doe and people, they will cover Bernie Sanders go on Fox News and tell the truth about capitalism, but they hide this shit. So that's why it fly under the radar. We'll continue.
That is true, because who else is going to report on it except for them? And independent media knows that. They know that if they don't report on it, that no one's going to hear it, because corporate media agrees with it. So they're not going to report it in the same way. But let's listen. This is a small excerpt. The entire interview is 8 minutes, but this is I only took about a minute and 20 seconds from it, just so we can zero in. Yeah, sure. Just on this part where he's talking about Medicare for all. So broadly, we've already sort of touched on the topic of him endorsing Joe Biden, him saying he thinks the progressive Democrats or progressives, all progressives should unite against Joe Biden. All of that is true. Now, they sort of ask in this interview with Face the Nation is, what are some of the things, or what do you suggest? What can he do to get more voters out? And he suggests Medicare for all, something that Joe Biden has already said he vetoed. Now, think about that. Do we think Bernie Sanders doesn't know Joe Biden said he would veto Medicare for all? So what does it mean if Bernie Sanders says, hey, Joe Biden, use Medicare for all, the promise of doing this and this and this for Medicare for all in order to get more Democrats elected? And he specifically says that in this video here. Let's play it now.
I think what the president has got to say is, give me at least 50 Democrats in the Senate. Give me control over the House of Representatives. And by 50 Democrats, I mean real Democrats, not corporate Democrats like Manchin and Sinema. And
so not even 50. He wants like 53. He's like, hey, and don't send me none of that damn shit. Okay, everybody. So think about this. Bernie Sanders is asking for you to come and vote for more Democrats, and that's how they're gonna finally do their job. How is that not just a regular Democrat establishment Democrat? How is that not? That's exactly what they do.
One of the most damning things that Bernie said during his unhinged spiel against Dr. Cornel West is that the progressives need to line up and support Biden to defeat Trump or anyone who get the Republican nomination. I feel like a lot of people miss that part, right? Because there are people who make the argument that we need to align to defeat Trump because you're a unique fascist, whatever, boo, boo, boo. But if you legit believe that, at least that makes sense, right? If you believe that Trump is a unique fascist, of course you will line up to defeat him, right? If you legitimately believe that. But Bernie is not even saying that, fam. If you look back at that old clip, he said we need to line up to defeat Trump or anybody who becomes a Republican candidate. So what is he saying by that? He's not saying that we need to defeat Trump. He's saying that we need to become Democrats forever, fam. That's literally what he's saying. I feel like a lot of people miss that part. That was the craziest part.
That is true. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, so I rewind it and let's listen from the beginning here.
I think what the president has got to say is give me at least 50 Democrats in the Senate. Give me control over the House of Representatives. And by 50 Democrats, I mean real Democrats, not corporate Democrats like Manchin and Sinema.
What is that?
And if you do that,
real quick. So I want you guys, and I used to, and this is an L on my part too, because back in the day, back when I was part of the Bernie coalition, I used to use terms like corporate Democrat. I have a question for you guys. Is Bernie Sanders considered a corporate Democrat because his vote helped boost the profits of Raytheon and Boeing? Is he a corporate Democrat because he supported Biden infrastructure deal that was a giveaway to oil and gas? What does it mean to be a corporate Democrat? If you vote with the Biden administration at a 90% plus clip and you acknowledge that he's doing the bidding of the capitalists, does that mean you're a corporate Democrat? The term don't exist, fam. There's no corporate Democrat. There's no progressive Democrats. You are a Democrat. But go ahead, CJ. You guys get my point.
What I was going to say is that think about we've let them define what a corporate Democrat is.
Not me.
We let the people who are voting 90% with corporate Democrats to define. You see how this is why you notice how progressives are always corporate. That's a corporate Democrat versus they're always on that. And we're just like, it's the same shit. They're always trying to make this sort of splitting the hairs to us, but they're trying to act like these large. But what's the difference if you're voting with them 90% of the time? And that's what we found out when AOC had an interview with David Sirota. He's like, he said it. He's like, you vote 91% with Joe Biden. So what's the difference? And what's the difference? Bernie Sanders doesn't take corporate money, but he's voting to send money to Ukraine. So what is the difference in him and somebody else?
And like I said earlier in the stream, CJ, remember, the dumb left don't care about votes or policy. Bernie Sanders say the right thing. So surely he's not a corporate Democrat. You guys he said he believes in Medicare for all, guys. He believes we need to increase minimum wage. So he can't be a corporate Democrat. That's what dumb leftists think. Don't matter what they vote for. Doesn't matter if they're aligned with corporate interests with their vote. The only thing that matters is vibes, fam. Toxic positivity and vibes. Let's continue.
I mean, you're talking toxic positivity to the max, but it's like their toxic positivity has gotten to the point because they've had so many big, huge betrayals. Your toxic positivity is becoming like it's a caricature. It's like a joke. You get what I'm saying? It's like it's like the it's like the dog in a burning building. It's like you're seen as a joke because it's burning. The house is burning down, and you're like, everything's okay, you know. So it's like it's not even having the effect that they think it's having. Is the point that I'm making. But let's finish the video with Bernie Sanders, man. Just terrible. Let's listen to Bernie.
The House of Representatives, and by 50 Democrats, I mean real Democrats, not corporate Democrats like Manchin and Sinema.
Making demands.
And if you do that,
making demands
within 2 or 3 months, we're going to reform healthcare to move it toward a system that guarantees healthcare to all people, not just huge profits.
How? Biden say he's gonna veto it, you gaslighting sheep. I like continue to go. How about how y'all see this is toxic positivity? Hey guys, don't worry. Let's not think about it. We're gonna get it done. Vote Democrats, they're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right. We're gonna be how, motherfucker? The president of the United States said he's going to veto Medicare for all. What are you talking about, Bernie? Anyway, I'll let it continue, but that's absurd.
This is where I'm saying, like, this is why I'm saying Bernie obviously knows this is stupid. So he must be saying it in order for him to trick people into voting for. He can't think that this is real. So he's telling Biden to use it to trick people like he tricked people with the student loan forgiveness thing. That's why this makes this despicable by Bernie Sanders, in my opinion. So let's listen.
For 3 months, we're going to reform healthcare.
So something they've been trying for years. He wants Joe Biden to promise us we'll do this in 2 or 3 months. To outright lie like that, Nick. This is terrible, man.
Bernie is giving. I told you guys, Bernie is the greatest grifter of the working class we've seen in the modern era, right? Bernie Sanders is literally giving Joe Biden tips on how to grift the left. He like, you just say you're gonna fight for healthcare, motherfucker. That's what I did. Nigga, I just said I'm gonna fight for healthcare. They gave me $400 million, dude. He like, bro, you understand this grift, fam? Like, some people like RBN to see through it, but nigga, you know how much money we can get? You know how many people we can trick, fam? If you just say we can, this is despicable, fam. This is why we say that Bernie is the #1 tool of the empire. Bernie Sanders and AOC, they are the biggest PR propaganda tools of the Democratic Party. Could they send fucking Pete Buttigieg out to do this? You know what I mean? Could they send out Nancy Pelosi to do this to trick young people? No, they can only send out Bernie and AOC. That's why the people that pretend that Bernie and AOC are still somehow good allies are not worthy of criticism. They lack any sort of real material analysis on politics. But anyway, let's continue the video.
Yeah, and this is the thing, Nick. We ain't even got to 30 seconds, Nick. And I mean, it's a short video. Yeah. It's only a minute and 20 seconds, but still, he says so much bull that we just have to stop and talk about it. But let's continue.
And if you do that within 2 or 3 months, we're going to reform healthcare to move it toward a system which guarantees healthcare to all people, not just huge profits for the insurance companies. We're going to lower the cost of prescription drugs so that we're not paying any more than the rest of the world. We're going to rebuild our economy to work for ordinary people. I think that's got to be the message. Contrast a progressive agenda for working people versus a Republican agenda.
Senator, I know you don't like to talk politics, but you're the one who went to New Hampshire, an early primary state. You've done very well in over the years. You support President Biden 100%. You've made that clear. But for any reason, if President Biden decides not to seek the Democratic nomination, is a run by Senator Sanders for the nomination on the table next year?
How dare you, corporate media, as how you guys roasted this motherfucker and set this motherfucker rigged up many times, and now he's on board with your shit. He's on board with your shit, and now you got the audacity talking about, you gonna run again? You motherfucker. If I was Bernie Sanders, I would have been like, you motherfuckers. After you guys did this shit to me twice,
dude,
you got the audacity to ask me this question?
Dude, that's such a fantastic point, CJ. But Bernie should be embarrassed. Like, you just got, nigga, they would never ask Bernie this question before, fam. Remember when, I'm blank on this guy's name, the late MSNBC anchor that died, Ed Schultz, right? Am I getting that right?
Schultz, Ed Schultz.
Yeah, Ed Schultz. Remember when Ed Schultz wanted to cover Bernie announcement? They said, "Fuck you, we're not doing that."
Yeah,
they banned him from covering Bernie coverage. They went from banning very prominent journalists from covering his announcement to, "Hey, Bernie, do you plan on running?" These motherfuckers are so comfortable with this guy. The fact that the billionaire and capitalist class is so comfortable with Bernie Sanders and AOC to the point where they will invite AOC to the Met Gala.
Yeah.
Nigga, that should be a shame on your fucking record. Hawani K. Tribe, that amazing Hawaiian indigenous protester and activist. Remember that woman that we showed you guys before?
Yeah.
Who spoke out against sovereignty? CJ, would Hawani K. Tribe get an invite to the Met Gala?
Nope.
Would she get an interview asked whether she would run for Congress? No. It's a stain on your record that the establishment respects you, Bernie, now. When the media mirrored us, that's the best PR we could possibly ask for. Shame on you, Bernie. Go ahead, CJ.
But that's what the professional managerial class fears the most, is that relational harm or damage to that. I'll read a couple of just reactions here. That's the end of the video, and then we can get to this last shorter segment here. Just a couple of tweets here. I'm going to read another one of her. She actually does it twice. At this point, Sanders must be viewed as controlled opposition, nothing more, nothing less. And I think he has been officially put into that category with this second endorsement, second time endorsing Joe Biden, the way that he's saying, whether it's Donald Trump or any other Democrat. I think we can say, why even have the independent? Why even have that, Bernie Sanders? You literally are not independent. You are blue to the core.
It's literally it's a decoration. It's a PR tool. The same way that liberals have hashtag Black Lives Matter as they support Joe Biden, who building cop, and Democrats are building Cop City. They support neo-Nazis in Ukraine, but Black Lives Matters. They support the establishment. They support the CIA, but hashtag resist. You guys see how they're just branding? That's what Bernie's eye and his name is literally just a branding exercise. Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, in one of those articles we were reading, they did use the term branding when they were referring to AOC. They were like, Biden has different branding, and that's what it is. This is all branding to them. They're all working for the same oligarch. They just have different branding to make us think, give us the illusion of democracy. Now, here's Ruth again. She says, Benediction Arnold advocates get more lying by Dems in order to get elected. That's why I'm Cornel West, and this is what they fear, Nick.
You call her Benedict Arnold Sanders. That's Benedict Arnold Sanders. That's a fucking
Benedict Arnold Sanders, and that's that's the one I wanted to read. That's why I said let me read her other one, because I knew it was a classic. Like, I feel like remote work helped kill the commercial. I forget. That's a weird. Here's one, and this kind of sums it up, and I'll end it with this one. Bernie should just shut the F up, and I concur with you, Brenda, on that. But final words on this. It is a shame. So many of us. It's okay. Just like Darth Vader used to be good. Darth Vader, when he was a human, he was good. When you go back into the, in the Star Wars episodes, he was a good guy at some point, and then he became bad. That's what it is. It's okay. That exists. And it's okay to say pre-Darth Vader, back when he was on the good side, Bernie influenced me. He is no longer on that side. That is just a fact, and it's explicitly clear, Nick. So any final words for the last one?
Fam, you realize we are just getting started. The election hasn't even really begun yet. And during this election season, this is why the media and the establishment is afraid of us, even though they're looking at us while pretending they're not looking at us. Because we have been vindicated on topic after topic after topic after topic. We are constantly being vindicated. All the people who believe that we were just being flagrant, belligerent, we were just shit posting for life because we shitting on Bernie and AOC. Everyone who apologized for Bernie and AOC, they're scrubbing their tweets for the last few years. Meanwhile, they was like, man, RBN was right about these motherfuckers. We see through these people. And that is what terrifies. That terrifying. We are the left that advocate for intellectual honesty, intellectual discipline. And as these clips continue, because Bernie Sanders and AOC, they're gonna campaign for Biden. Like I said, we just getting started. You guys think the cringe is at the max? No. Wait till Super Tuesday. Wait till we get to the election, the general election. We have Bernie Sanders and AOC giving stump speeches demanding progressives to fall in line behind Biden because shit not real yet, fam. Once we get in September and Dr. Cornel West becomes a real threat, they're going to send Bernie and them after him. I promise you. Mark it down. We have yet to see the cringe. Wait till the debate around the Ukraine war really heats up next year.
Oh, man.
And then Bernie and AOC go on the offensive against Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. You're going to have Marjorie Taylor Greene quote tweet AOC and Bernie to their left on the Ukraine war. And then AOC and Bernie, they're gonna quote tweet and fire back with an empire talking point. We're gonna see some weird ass shit, fam. We're gonna see some weird ass shit this next year.
Oh, damn.
And I'm glad that RBN is gonna be here to document this crazy shit that's about to go down. But CJ, I'll pass to you for our last quick story here.
Yeah, this is a quicker story here, and it's everybody has seen this video, or we have seen this video, and she's getting roasted. I love being able to go back and find these videos, Nick, of these people who have now magically changed their mind, and we're all questioning, like, what has happened to make these people change their mind? So this is sort of a Krystal versus Krystal segment. That's what we're calling her, because we know what she's saying now. Her and her husband, Kyle, what they're both saying now, they're both saying the Democrats is far better. They're both saying make sure a Democrat wins the party. They're both saying Trump is all this stuff. And we covered the video Kyle versus Kyle. We're calling this Krystal versus Krystal, and it's not a dual video, but this is a classic video that I always talk about, Nick, and I say when she was on Rising, she was further left than what she is now.
Exactly. So when we said that, we said many times on our coverage that how do you become quote unquote independent and then shift to the right? There's way more establishment on Rising, and the reason why and these segments are extremely important, and that's why we do the Kyle versus Kyle clips. I'll show you guys old quote from Bernie Sanders because I'm trying to remind you guys that we're not crazy. When you hear these people pretend they're radical and flip their opinions, I don't believe that realistic. We are watching these people sell out in real time. I will expound on that here very soon, but let's get to the clip.
Yes, all right. So that pretty much sets it up. I don't know how far long ago, but they both look very much younger. So this might be in the
this is during the Rising era. This is a few years ago.
Yeah, way earlier in the Rising era. So let's.
And this is during the Trump. This is during the Trump era because she's talking about the Trump Biden election. I want you guys to keep that in mind. But let's watch this.
Because I genuinely think people look at this and they're like, Biden's less bad than Trump, so just vote for Biden. But there's a rationale behind why it makes no sense for the left to line up behind Biden. You get nothing in return. And also,
Nick, for a person who's part of the professional managerial class, this is a mask off moment because this is saying she knows that the people who need stuff from the government will not be getting anything, because if you align yourself with the Democratic Party and you're left, you're not getting nothing. She just said it. So she knows this, and she's still trying to push this because she has a big platform. She has no shame about this lie that she's now pushing.
This is exactly why I say I don't believe we can't give these people benefit of the doubt. I don't know why people do. I don't believe you go from being a sweet summer child, waking up, seeing through the propaganda, and then you become a sweet summer child again. Like, that is not believable. CJ, we had times in our lives where we were sweet summer children, and then we woke up and grew up. We are not children no more. We are now adults that can analyze propaganda. You don't become a sweet summer child, grow up, and then revert back to a child. That's a decision that you make. We've played many times on the show, and you guys can relate, I am sure. Once you see through the propaganda, you can't unsee it. So when you see this clip, and when you see Krystal say this and the rest of this clip, you guys will see that she didn't unsee this info that she is telling you now. She is deciding not to see it now. She's deciding not to share the perspective anymore. She's gonna have a Gen Z debate on her channel though. So play the beginning part again, and we can let it finish. I want to see play the beginning and then we can let it play some more. I want you guys to hear that part again.
Here we go.
Because I genuinely think people look at this and they're like, Biden's less bad than Trump, so just vote for Biden. But there's a rationale behind why it makes no sense for the left to line up behind Biden. You get nothing in return. And also, by the way, some of us really do believe that Trump is a symptom of the problem and that the root of the problem is.
So now she doesn't believe he's not just a symptom now. He's no longer just a symptom. Now he's the person, he's Thanos here to destroy democracy. Now he's different. I don't believe. So basically, Nick, to your point, basically, Krystal Ball is the Benjamin Button of politics. She ages backwards in politics. She doesn't age and keep going forward. She ages backwards. So I don't know if that's the right word, Benjamin Button, but I put that in the title. But this can't, it has to be some sort of outside influence that make this sort of pivot, because it's not even a soft pivot. This is a completely different thing that she's saying now. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah. So if you don't mind, let's let this play all the way through. For the people, and I don't want to assume people seen this clip before. So just for the sake of time, I want people to compare these two clips. So for this segment, if you don't mind, CJ, I'm going to play this clip all the way through, right? And then let's get back to this so you guys see how unhinged this shift is. And I don't believe this is realistic. So we already commented on this video before. I just want you guys to see the direct comparison. So CJ, if you don't mind, I don't think there's any reason for us to comment on this.
No. You just play it all the way through.
Yeah.
Only thing that Cornel West, Dr. West, who I love, admire, respect, whose politics I almost wholly and completely share. I think effectively the only thing that his campaign will accomplish is, number one, helping to reelect Donald Trump, and number two, hurting the left. Because ultimately, there's just a poll that came out that showed Biden and Trump basically tied in a head-to-head. You throw Cornel West in and Trump is winning by like 5 points. And the margin is just exactly the amount that Dr. West takes away from Joe Biden. Now, listen, it's fully on Joe Biden that he needs to do more to appeal to potential Cornel West voters. But let's live in the land of reality of how this is going to work out. They're not going to do that. Dr. West will take some percentage, relatively small percentage, away from the Democratic total, and it makes it easier for Donald Trump to get elected. So if your priority is reelecting a Democrat, and if you believe, as I do, that Donald Trump and Joe Biden are not equivalent, that Joe Biden has been better, in particular on economic withdrawal from Afghanistan, then I think a third-party effort makes it more likely that Donald Trump gets reelected. And the reason why I say I think it will ultimately also hurt the left wing and left principles, if that's what you care about, is we have the model of 2016. Look, the theory in 2016 with Jill Stein was, if we withhold our votes from the Democrats, and that's going to force them to the table, we're going to have a voice in the room, they're going to have to come to our side. No, that's not what they did. Instead, they demonized anyone who would have even considered Jill Stein. They used it to demonize the left. They used it to undercut any sort of leftward push. And so while I would love to imagine that that theory of the case would work out, we've seen the reality, and that is not what happens. Now, the place where I profoundly disagree with Bernie Sanders is on his orientation towards the Democratic primary. And there's another section of this where he gets asked specifically about the Democratic primary. And he says, no, I think we need to unify behind Joe Biden because that will be what helps to defeat Donald Trump. Well, that's exactly the argument that was used against Bernie Sanders himself.
Yes.
Both in 2016 and again in 2020.
So if you guys want to see our full coverage of this garbage, make sure you check out Aaron cut a clip of that. But I want to show that for you guys because I don't want to assume everyone's seen that. Now let's watch old Krystal beat the fuck out of new Krystal.
All right, let's put this back up.
I laugh at my old positions. I make fun of myself all the time on here. I'll put it back up. I already put it up here. Let me put it back up. I make fun of my old political positions because I'll show you guys how I evolve. Right? It's realistic for someone to be a victim of the most propagandized country in the world. Right? We all were victims of propaganda. We grew up through the public education system. Most of us did. We constantly hammered by propaganda. And I don't think there's any shame of being a victim of propaganda. But we overcome that propaganda and we see through it. How do you go in reverse? That's why I make fun of my old position. Like I used to say corporate Democrat. That was stupid. I used to believe that if you don't take corporate money, you're someone worth fighting for. That's stupid. You guys see how people evolve and they change, they become better. How do you regress like this? So after I show you guys this old clip, let's watch this. Now let's watch your clip, CJ. You can play if you want to. Now let's watch it. Now you got fresh perspective on how much you changed. Let's watch old Krystal beat new Krystal up.
Because I genuinely think people look at this and they're like, Biden's less bad than Trump, so just vote for Biden. But there's a rationale behind why it makes no sense for the left to line up behind Biden. You get nothing in return. And also, by the way, some of us really do believe that Trump is a symptom of the problem and that the root of the problem is actually neoliberalism. So signing on for 4 or 8 or even
in the future clip, she's like, I truly believe that Biden is better than Trump. But in this clip, I truly believe Trump is a symptom of this. You guys really believe this is fucking real? So you guys see, I can accurately explain my former views. She is literally pretending that she never had that position. What is that? Anyway, let's continue. Sorry, let's continue.
Yeah, like what if she said, "Yeah, I used to think he was only a symptom, but now I think that's not what she's acting like. That never existed."
Yeah, they know. They don't even
admit they potentially more.
Like, and that's a point I made to someone before. They don't even admit they changed. It'd be one thing like, yeah, I used to be anti-establishment, but now I'm a Democrat. They don't even acknowledge that because they hope that their new audience they cultivating don't see the old clips. They are cultivating a new audience. So they just switch like a WWE character when a pro wrestler decides to turn heel. Like they just switch. Maybe let's continue.
More years of that. What do you think you're going to end up with at the end of that? You'll be longing for the days of Trump.
Well, that's the issue. You understand power and they don't. They think that Trump is the cause of all of their problems, or at the very least, these Justice Democrats and these groups are willing to co-sign on that idea. The moment you co-sign on it, you lose all your credibility.
Right.
The moment you co-sign on that, you use all your credibility. Now, Sagar didn't say that in the interview that you showed. He didn't go, hey, Krystal, you're losing your credibility here, ma'am. He didn't say that. Now, that means you're losing your credibility to Sagar because look what you said about a person who would do that, and you were in an interview with a person who did that.
Yep. Nodding your head along, no pushback at all. Me and RBN, we got a lot of core fundamental values, which is why we tend to get along on stream. But best believe if CJ randomly one day decided to say we're gonna support Joe Biden, you're gonna see us fight on stream for the first time. You know what I mean? You don't see those fights because we had generally universal value. But CJ, imagine if I went on one stream one day and I'm like, yeah, man, I think this is why we need to support Joe Biden. I said, I'm right. He's like, nigga, what? That'll be the first time y'all niggas see us fight. He's like, hold on. Nigga, are you serious? I'm like, no, I'm what? Serious. I'm like, nigga, actually, I'm serious. I know I said it. I would do the liberal logic. You'd be like, nigga, no, nigga. You would see us have a screaming match. There's no way CJ will be okay with me saying that Democrat liberal bullshit on air. Meanwhile, Sagar just here like, listen to the shit. Nigga, we getting paid. Nigga, you see this new desk? Nigga, I don't give a fuck. Nigga, my co-host sold out. I don't give a fuck. Now I'm good. You see this suit I got on? I don't give a fuck about Principal at all. Damning clip, fam. Absolutely.
For both of them, in my opinion, yeah. But let me play that last few seconds again because I did cut him off before he finished talking, and it's over. But let me just make
let's
sure
play it again.
We hear it. Yeah, we hear what he says here.
their problems, or at the very least, these Justice Democrats and these groups are willing to co-sign on that idea. The moment you co-sign on it, you lose all your credibility for the things that you've been saying over.
Because I genuinely think people.
Now, for the things you've been saying over the years is what he was going to say, because I remember this clip, and that's the end of that clip, so we can bring it down. But this is, I mean, all of this, Nick, for the overall theme of the show, because she's part of the NATO left to the Nazi collaborators. So it's just not looking good for these Nazi collaborators, from AOC to Bernie Sanders to Jamal Bowman, and now to Kyle Kulinski and Krystal Kulinski, or Crystal Ball, if she still goes by Crystal Ball. But all of them now deciding to jump on board as a Nazi collaborator. And I'll just toss this up because I didn't bring it up a second ago. That's the reason why we put this on here. Bernie Sanders is a Nazi collaborator. Joe Biden is a Nazi collaborator. AOC is a Nazi collaborator. And we already know about Marianne Williamson. We didn't get to it in the intro video because it was the last clip of that montage, that mashup of all the clips. But maybe I'll play it as an outro. Remember when Marianne Williamson went on Jimmy Dore and got exposed, badly exposed on Ukraine?
Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald too. Jimmy Dore and Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah, that was another one. Yeah, that was another one. She just looking bad, not able to answer questions, and then using these talking points of democracy and fighting this hard and how they're fighting their hearts out and not caring at all. For a person like her who's so spiritual, to have that level of delusion to where you don't care that humans are dying, at the same time you're sending money to the #1 polluter in human history. It's just a bad look for the NATO left. It's a bad look. Go ahead, Nick.
Come on, CJ. Yeah, we know tens of thousands of Ukrainians are dying, but we must stop the Russian Federation. Good vibes and positive thinking.
Toxic positivity is going to kill them.
Thousands of Ukrainian soldiers going to die so we can weaken the Russian Federation. I believe we should love our neighbors. I believe we should take on capitalism, but I think we should support the Ukraine war. These are the open hypocrisies that we're supposed to be okay with. So I hope that Crystal Ball, Bernie Sanders, and the Nazi collaborators, I hope they're being taken care of by the liberal audience. We're done with them. We're done with them. Hope they accept you in the Democratic circle that you're applying for, Crystal, because you're completely seen through now. Fucking Crystal Ball and Kyle Kulinski, these motherfuckers have been making sure they don't read their notifications, no comments, nigga. We just got a tunnel vision ahead, nigga. Don't look at comments, nigga. Don't look at quote tweets. Don't look at your mentions, nigga. We cannot look at any response to the community because they're getting roasted in all their videos. All their videos, they're getting roasted. Kyle and Crystal are getting dragged on Twitter left and right because of the videos we're showing you guys. These videos going viral every day on Twitter because people they're having whiplash at the Bernie left openly selling out. So now they just doing this thing where they're not reading their mentions. Nigga, they're a tunnel vision. Nigga, they got a script.
They have to. They have to.
You guys believe that Crystal Ball do not see the comments where she getting fucking destroyed. So either she don't see the comments or she's actively making a coordinated effort to avoid it. And I'm asking you guys, why is that? So Kyle Kulinski getting roasted by his audience, especially when you talk about media bias. In his media bias video, there were comments literally in the video like, why are you not talking about RBN? Why are you avoiding RBN? So Kyle and them purposely avoiding the feedback of their community because they know they sold out. Hope the liberal.
That's an indication. That's just like Pramila Jayapal. Remember how she avoids? You see how all the elected squad avoids us? You see how Bernie Sanders don't go on any left podcast? You see how they avoid us because they know that's a tell, Nick, that you know you are in the wrong. That's why you're avoiding it. Go ahead.
We show super chats and comments. Like, bro, can you imagine if Crystal Ball was forced to read super chats?
Oh Lord. Oh Lord. It would be terrible. It would be terrible.
Like, you know how we doing super chats right now? Nigga, if Crystal Ball were forced to read super chat from her channel and Kyle was forced to it would be a roast session. They were like, we're gonna do a 1 hour show and then we got the roast session afterwards.
They would just call it a roast session too. Yeah. You guys can roast us afterwards.
I read the free super chats I put up, but didn't read, and then we can get out of here. This is what we mentioned earlier: solidarity for Canada, much appreciated. Corti for $2.79. Thank you for $2. They should be called the Nazi left. Absolutely, I love the aggression. I love the aggression. Thank you for the $2. Keep kicking Nazi left ass. Absolutely. That's one of the reasons I like the NATO left term, and I believe NATO left is a good term and called on. I've seen a lot of people use it. I
like that.
Because it forces the NATO left to accept our premise. I already seen it. I seen like Vosh and them people reply to me before where they're like, NATO left based. And they in their echo chamber. Then as they said that, they got ratioed. So when we say NATO left, we are putting them on the spot. Like, hey, are we wrong or are you right? Do you or do you not support NATO? Yeah, I support NATO. Do you do not consider yourself on the left? Yeah, I'm a left. So you're a NATO leftist.
Yes.
And that's why that term, I believe, is effective, because it forces the conversation to the point where they can't dodge it. You either got to accept the term or you got to lie to us and say, you're not on us for NATO, even though I'm for waging a proxy war against the state to support its expansion. But anyway, I love the term. That's why I don't mention this, because they have a hard time doing. Imagine if I went on Krystal and Kyle breaking points, I'll drop that term NATO left. Nigga, their audience won't be able to unhear that shit.
Just think about it, Nick. I'm sorry, I thought you were. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I almost dropped past right to you. But that's why they shield us from their audience. When they talk about that media article, they won't talk about RBN, because they don't want their audience to be introduced to our vernacular. Because once you understand the concept of how NATO left oxymoron, then you will look at a Sam Sears segment different. You know what I mean? Once you see us call out the professional managerial class left, once you see us dismantle these anti-third party talking points from Cal and Krystal, you'll be watching their videos differently. So they don't even engage with us. Hell, they don't even engage with their own audience. They don't even read their super chats. They're like, thank you, nigga. Thank for the bank. We're not reading it. Anyway, I see people lose.
Why do you think corporate media? Why do you think corporate media don't bring on progressives to stomp for the Ukraine war yet? Is it that they know, like, is it all a dance? They know, like, hey, we can bring you on for this, but we can't bring it because that's taking it too far. That'll blow your illusion of being a progressive too much to have you on a panel for Ukraine, even though you're voting, for it, because they avoid corporate media too, even talking about Ukraine. Nowhere. They don't talk about Ukraine at all. They go like, just think, when she went on Pod Save America, did they talk about Ukraine? Nope. When she went on David Sirota, did they talk about Ukraine? Nope. Like, they don't talk about it at all. Go ahead, Nick, with the rest of the
thank you for the $5. Krystal dumped her husband and kids for Kyle. How precious!
Yeah, that's a damn shame. No personal judgment.
I'm gonna just read your username. Thank you for the $5. None of your business. I'm gonna say that's not my business. Not my business. I think it's weird, but that's not my business. I can critique our own policy. That's like your name say. That's not my business. I think it's. Man, that's fucking rough, man. I'm not looking at it from Krystal's perspective, because she's a woman. I'm not gonna judge Krystal at all. I'm looking at it from the perspective of Cal, nigga. You just straight up like, I'm home wrecking today. But anyway, that's what I couldn't make that move. That's just me being personal. I couldn't make that move. But thank you for $5, ARJ. None of my business though. I'm a leftist unless I have money. So let me read this again. I'm a leftist unless I have money in my status in polite society. Oh, I see what you're saying. That's sarcastic. I'm a leftist unless I have money in my status in polite society is on the line. Then I become a partisan hack. I see what you're saying. Now that's sarcasm. That's a great comment. That's like in the duopoly. That's the Bernie Sanders left. Yep. I'm a leftist until the Democratic Party tells me no on the issue. The Democratic Party told the left that want to be anti-military industrial complex, they said no, not this issue. Not Ukraine. Okay, I'll bad make you look. No, you're not doing that. They say, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. They know they. See, you think they don't know they will look bad if they.
Oh, they know.
No, they were given the order, and they're like, yes, we gotta take the bullet. We gotta take the heat because we're given the order. Anyway, let's continue. Last chat here of the day. That's a good name for them, Nazi collaborators. I did not make it up, fam. You know what they call people who helped the Nazis in World War II? Nazi collaborators. I didn't make it up. I'll show you guys the definition. Working with people that you usually oppose for a common goal. That makes you a collaborator. There are people who wasn't necessarily aligned ideologically with the Nazis, but for many political purposes, it will take a whole live stream to explain they align with Nazis, right? So at what point, and this is the question I ask because I'm using this term, these motherfuckers hate me for it, fam. Like, you guys know how much the Bernie Sanders left hate my guts? Because I call them Nazi collaborators. They go farther than most people will go. Like, even if you look at edgy anti-establishment people, they won't even call them that. But at what point do we call a spade a spade? At what point are we going to use language how it was originally designated to be used? So unless they explain why they now support funding the Azov Battalion, but they did it in 2018, I want you to explain it to me and make it make sense. Unless you can do that, you're a Nazi collaborator, fam. And they can get mad at me and they can cry all they want for me being rude and uncivil. Or being don't give a fuck. Anyway,
we really don't. We really don't.
Not at all. When I see people complain, RB is so mean. I'm like, nigga, this is politics, man. This is not a video game channel. Nigga, this is not a channel where we talk about Game of Thrones. Nigga, this is not a pop culture. If there was a pop culture debate, we should be nice to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I had my friend Kid on. He was talking about Star Wars the other day. I had no idea what he was talking about. But him and Nico House had a disagreement. They'll fight over. You know what I mean? You civil in those disagreements. You know, when you talking about Star Wars, y'all just a different interpretation. Who gives a fuck? You got a different interpretation of some movie. Yeah, and you should be civil in those conversations. Then you think we give a fuck if we made people mad about advocating for our community, fam?
Makes
Niggas
no
think,
sense.
y'all think RBN gives a shit that we make the boutique left upset. Y'all support the Democratic Party that's building Cop City, that destroyed our neighborhoods. You guys supporting Jim Crow Joe, they're trying to escalate World War III, arming Taiwan, complicit with the genocide of Palestinian people. You guys support that party. You guys think we give a fuck that you guys think we're mean? Nigga, this shit is not a game. This shit is real. You either on the right side or you're not. You either agree with us or you're the op, nigga. There's not an option. You guys understand? This is politics. This shit not a game. Anyway, I think it's a fun show. I think we got.
That's a great rant. That was a great rant. I gotta say,
I could go on that.
Yeah,
but
I gotta get out of here soon too. But I'm gonna play an outro video and everything. But you were gonna say something right there. You're gonna announce something or something, or what's happening tomorrow? Are we? What's tomorrow?
Let's play by ear tomorrow.
Play it by ear. Let's play it by ear. My kids are back to school tomorrow.
Let's play by ear. But you guys know we upload every day, so we figure it out what time it be. Make sure that's why it's important for you guys to subscribe to our Substack. We have regular.
Yes, because that's when you're gonna find out when we're gonna go live. Because literally, sometimes we do it at last minute. Yeah.
We have regular programming, but you never know. So we upload, we go live every day. As a guest, I gotta reach out to. I got a lot of great shows planned for this month of September. So make sure you guys hit subscribe. I gotta get. We just talked about on Black Power Media like a few weeks ago, so that's something I'm gonna try to get done here soon. Maybe Black Power Media or RBN because they asked to come back on because it's been a while since we did a collaboration. Because you guys know Black Power Media, they had their YouTube channel on there a few weeks ago, so maybe that come up here soon. A few other guests I have on my mind, I will announce them when they're confirmed. So a lot of great content coming this month. Last month I was very busy with RBN KC, some personal business as well. But this month I got a lot of great content planned. It should be especially with this next election coming up, dude. Like this shit is gonna be fucking hilarious, fam. You guys want to make sure you guys tune in because we're gonna document all this. Like Bernie and them are gonna continue to embarrass themselves, and I believe RBN is gonna continue to be vindicated throughout the course of the next year. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you're still subscribed, and help us hit 50K. That was our goal earlier this year to hit RBN 50K by the end of the year. So. Any help from that would be appreciated, and also the fundraiser for Aaron, CJ may give you guys.
Oh yeah, I'll throw that up here too.
Yeah, so I'll pass to you. I want to make sure that we can pay our workers well. So with that said, make sure you stay tuned. I got a lot of great content. I'll pass you CJ to plug the fundraiser. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.
All right, Nick. All right, so I'm gonna plug the fundraiser, and then the intro video that I started with. I do want to finish playing that, so we might have another 10 minutes in the stream just so I can play the rest of it. So stick around. The stream is not quite over. We're still going to be talking about the Nazi collaborators. So stick around just for maybe 10 more minutes, and let me play this clip. Actually, let's talk about the fundraiser. Where is it? So we are in the midst of a fundraiser. I think we're a little more than a quarter way done. That's the GoFundMe. If you are able to toss a couple of dollars over to the GoFundMe and support in paying our editor who does all of our great graphics. She did this one that's on the screen now. She did the one that's for this stream. All of our graphics she's done for the last several months. I think December. So what are we? Oh, she's coming up on a year. Wow, it has been that quick. So she's coming up on a year, but if you're able to contribute to her GoFundMe or the GoFundMe for her on her behalf, please do. Now, continuing with the Nazi collaborators, Aaron. So I guess this could be a short mini segment, very mini segment, because I do want to finish off what the intro video was, because it included the Marianne Williamson clip and she's on the thumbnail. So let's make sure we cover the Marianne Williamson segment of this Nazi collaborator episode. And where are we here? It's not that one. It's not that one. I have a bunch of tabs open. All right, this one right here. All right, so let's listen here. Oops.
Being an apologist for Putin and his war crimes. We're under no illusions regarding the difficulties involved in engaging Russia, given its outrageous and illegal invasion of Ukraine and its decision to make additional illegal annexations of Ukrainian territory. However, if there is a way to end the war while preserving a free and independent Ukraine, let's not forget that's what they're calling for, a free and independent Ukraine. It is America's responsibility to pursue every diplomatic avenue to support such a solution that is acceptable to the people of Ukraine. So the language is important. We want to make sure this is acceptable to the people of Ukraine. They need to be on board for these negotiations. We want a free and sovereign Ukraine. You guys hear what I'm saying here? Like, what they're very clear about how the priority is to end this as peacefully as possible while maintaining the sovereignty of Ukraine and protecting Ukrainian lives.
Marianne, how did the Democratic Party become the party of censorship and war?
Well, when it comes to being the party of war, I think both of them. I mean, both when it comes to big oil and defense contractors, both the Republicans and the Democrats are in lockstep with their corporate donors on that. So I don't think of it as the party of war any more than the Republicans are, actually. I mean, you can look at individuals, but I just think of the military-industrial complex as having its grip on both parties, actually. So it's really more, how did the U.S. government become so hostage to Raytheon, Northrop Grumman, and Boeing? That is the question in my mind.
I mean, even people who don't take corporate money in the Democratic Party are for the Ukraine war, and they just vote for military budgets. They vote for that's the reason why it stands out, is because the Democratic Party was supposed to be a left party. They're supposed to be anti-war. Everybody always expected the Republican Party to be right-wing and pro-war, and so that's why it's a different thing now. And everybody in the Democratic Party votes for war. They're all war pigs, and there's a big faction of the Republicans who aren't. In fact, we just covered a story with Matt Gaetz, who wants us to get out of Africa. You'll never hear Democrats do that. Why is that?
Well, first of all, I'm not enrolled in your perspective on pro-war. I think that there are a lot of people who are very, very concerned about the power of the U.S. war machine.
Which ones would those be?
Well, for one, me. I mean,
no, I'm talking about Democrats in Congress or who are elected.
I can't speak so much about Democrats in Congress, because I think of Democrats in Congress as so beholden to the corporatist Democratic leadership when push comes to shove. Obviously, I do. I wouldn't be running. Notice I'm running and they're not. So a lot of people who say they're progressives who are in Congress fall in line when it comes to that. But I think that there are many of us
you're going to do the same
do
thing.
not look at it that way and still have a different view, perhaps, than you do on
What is your view on the Ukraine war?
Well, I certainly am not naive about how we got there. I certainly understand that the U.S. Poked the bear. I certainly understand about the Aegis missiles. And
this is that lane, the lane of I'm going to criticize the establishment or the Democratic establishment, and in this case, but I'm going to do the same thing as the people who don't criticize the establishment. So I'm criticizing it, but I still support them in the same way. So this is what that new lane is. It's like we can no longer pretend like the atrocities of the United States haven't affected. So now we have to at least acknowledge it in order to sell people on this bullshit. And that's what she's doing. Yeah, we're imperialists. Yeah, she says imperialist adventures. Yeah, all these things, but, and there's always a but. So let's continue with this.
In Poland, I don't feel that I'm naive at all about how the U.S. war machine works. However, it's kind of like you look at someone like Dwight Eisenhower. On one hand, he is the man who coined the phrase military-industrial complex, and he was the supreme commander of all Allied forces in World War II. It's not an either-or. You can.
What the fuck is that an example of? What is that an example of? What is she saying here? What I don't. Let's let it continue, and then because there's another part I want to get to too.
Can be aware that the military is profiteering in and causing a real terrible problem, as he realized after all that was over at the end of his presidency, and at the same time feel strongly that certain lines must be drawn, certain boundaries, and certain people must be stopped. So when you look at what happened last weekend in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, 40 nations coming together, that's very important what happened last weekend. With China, India was there, Brazil was there, and I think that many of us feel, I feel that actually the fact that Ukraine got some support that it's gotten from the United States and other Western nations is part of what has opened up the possibilities that exist right now for real negotiation, because it will be other countries. This is not just about what the United States says. Most things when it comes to military around the world, it's not a unipolar world anymore. It's multipolar. A lot of nations are involved in this. And so
she wants to show, I've been studying, so she's using a lot of buzzwords to show unipolar world, to show, I know some stuff about foreign policy. That's clearly why she's using some of this phrasing, just throwing it out there to prove that she's been brushing up on her cliff notes.
I think we should all be glad about what seems to have begun to happen in Saudi Arabia last weekend.
So I'm trying to figure. So you're saying?
Yeah, because she double talked. He asked you about Ukraine. And then because your stance on Ukraine is terrible, you said a bunch of other shit, and we couldn't decipher what you were if you were answering the question or not. That's why Jimmy is like, I can't really understand what you're talking about here. So let's let him continue here.
Then you support Joe Biden's policy in Ukraine?
What I don't support about Joe Biden's policy is when he says,
second time, this is such a tell when you ask somebody a question, what's your name? Yeah, and they don't answer it. Oh, okay, yeah. Sky is blue, huh? But what's your name? Isn't that an indication that you don't want to answer the question if you continue not to answer the question and say everything else? Because the first time she rambled on about something else that wasn't even on topic. He says, so I don't get it. So to be clear, I didn't, clarify. So what is your stance? So what do you agree with him on? And what does she says? Or what does she do? This is what I don't agree with him on. That's the indication that what the things you do agree with him on aren't things that people are going to want to aren't going to make people want to vote for you. So it's a tell, in my opinion. Let's continue.
for as long as it takes. He and Lloyd Austin just talk about how we're just giving money for as long as it takes. We need to be in support of a negotiated settlement.
So there already was a
Of course, theoretically, you would say, I mean, Jake Sherman was there. So to some extent, of course,
you're aware that in 2014 that the CIA.
This is where Jimmy goes on a history rant and tells her about the coup and everything, and she knows all about it. We've examined the full video before, so I guess I could bring it down. How do I switch it? Oh, is it this one? Switch it back. Okay, there we go. I was trying to figure out which one. I got to pay attention more on my screen. But anyway, so this is part one of Nazi collaborators, because these people aren't going anywhere. The Ukraine war is not going anywhere. So I'm sure we're going to be having a part two of this if they decide to fund even more, if they decide to take some other step, if they decide to put troops on the ground, if they decide whatever they decide to do, and these progressives are still on board with those tactics by the State Department and the NATO, we'll be revisiting this topic of Nazi collaborators in the future. It's something I did want to cover. I forgot we didn't cover it. And I don't feel like we're going to cover it in any other stream. So I'm going to do something I didn't plan to do. And that is cover it now. And it's sort of funny it's funny. That's why. So let's end with this fun sort of segment. And this fun segment is about, my camera's a little glitchy, but I know you can hear me. My fun segment is about, it's not really a Trump movement, but yeah, I guess you can say that. Let's see. Is this a Trump movement? Let's say it that way. Is this a Trump movement? And I'm going to go to a video of Donna Brazile on, what was that show? This Week with George Stephanopoulos, whatever his name is, George S. And it's a clip where she talks about this is a movement, because she kind of is exasperated over all of their propaganda is not doing anything to change the numbers. So they're talking about these numbers you see right here on the screen. And let's start here. Is this Trump thing, is this a movement, is the question. So you see all the things that has happened to Donald Trump, all the indictments that has happened to Donald Trump, but look at this latest Wall Street Journal poll, and it just came out yesterday. And it's so bad that Morning Joe needs another day to cope on this. They didn't cover this at all today at Morning Joe, because that was the first corporate news outlet I wanted to check to see their cope on this poll. It's 46-46. Dead heat. Margin of error, 5%. But this is a dead heat after all the indictments. And what do they like to say? 91 counts against him, 4 indictments. One of which is for trying to stop democracy or against the United States. After all of that, he's still polling tied with Joe Biden. I mean, that is on so many levels has to be heartbreaking. It has to, on the level of, this is your grade for your propaganda. It's not working. So corporate media is propaganda, and everybody's in the game. Imagine it's supposed to be a 5-on-5 game, and they say, we can't beat them 5-on-5, so we're going to clear the bench, and you bring in your whole bench. So now it's 12-on-5, and you're still losing. So that's sort of what this this poll represents to those that are propagandists. But it also indicates the weakness of Joe Biden, because if Joe Biden was as good as everybody's saying he is, Bidenomics, how are you at a dead heat with a person who has 91 felony counts. I think that's what they say, 91 felony counts against them. How is that possible? So that begs the question, is this a movement? And during the post-duopoly show, what was that? The post-duopoly show this past week. Maybe it wasn't, but the clip just recently posted where Russell from Do Dissidents brings up a point how this is very this whole situation with Donald Trump is very reminiscent of the Ronald Reagan backlash, because that was a movement, the Ronald Reagan movement. Even in the clip I'm going to show you, we get to here in a second, of Donna Brazile, she makes reference to other movements, political movements, so movements that aren't social. So we're talking about political movements. She said there was Ronald Reagan, then there was Obama, and now there's Donald Trump. So post your thoughts in the chat, and I'll toss them up. Do you see this as a movement? They want to call it a cult. Some call it a cult, but is a cult or is this a movement? And that is the numbers. I'm actually going to play you the long version of it. But to address the question, is it a cult? Now, here is Trump Latinos. And look at this music video that they made. And you tell me, maybe this is cultish, or is this just an excitement because it's a movement? So let's watch this here.
Joe Biden, man, I'm voting for Trump. Joe Biden, yeah, I'm voting for Trump. Joe Biden, yeah, I'm voting for Trump.
Fuck Joe Biden, yeah, I'm voting for Trump is what it's called.
Blacks for Trump, Latinos for Trump. United we stand, and we standing with Trump.
Dear white people, will you take our vote? Why the Democrats always try to steal our hope?
I'd rather have a president with a mugshot than the president pedophile that we got. I'm sorry, Trump, I ain't.
Wow. So I don't know if this is a reflection that this is a movement or this is just some insane cultish sort of behavior. Maybe that's an argument for cultish behavior. Maybe that's what this video is. But let's go to This Week with George Stephanopoulos and bring that clip up. This is like a 5-minute clip that mostly I'm going to play it from beginning to end. You may have saw it on our channel. I uploaded to the channel too, so you can see the clip. But let's listen to it. This is 5 minutes, almost 6 minutes, 5 minutes and 50 seconds. Let's listen and discuss briefly and get out of here soon. So let's listen.
Race, I don't ask you the question I asked Tim Kaine towards the end there. It is kind of shocking in a way that despite all of the baggage that Donald Trump carries, he's tied with Joe Biden right now.
Yeah, I mean, George, when I looked at that recent poll, the Wall Street Journal, I said, oh, this could keep me up at night. Look, the problem is, and the biggest challenge we face as Democrats, I say we because I'm a Democrat, is that young voters, young Black and Latino voters, they're not ready to come back to the party. They're not even looking at the...
So let's stop there. So this is something, she does admit this part as the reason why it's so close. And she said that Wall Street Journal poll that I showed you, 46-46, keep her up at night. And she is the one that's going to make the point about the movement. Let me rewind it just a slightly.
I say we because I'm a Democrat, is that young voters, young Black and Latino voters, they're not ready.
Yeah, young Black and Latino voters. And to that point, the video I just played, this is, I think it's called Trump Latinos or Latinos for Trump. And who is she talking about? And that's why I wanted to play the video. I think I played it out of order. I was supposed to play the video after I played this video. So I played it out in order, wanted to show her saying that, and then bring up the Latinos for Trump video and say, see what she's talking about. But you get the point. The point is still made. Let's continue with Donna Brazile.
To come back to the party. They're not even looking at the so-called messaging that's being sent to them about the economy, about climate change, about student debt relief. They are worried about their future. And right now they're looking for a leader who represents their values and their vision. And I think the president's campaign is going to have to really, go deep and go hard to motivate those voters to come back within the Democratic Party coalition, because without them, it is a tight race, and it's going to come down to 4 states.
And Susan Page, with every passing month, with every new indictment, Donald Trump seems to be consolidating his control over the Republican Party.
This Wall Street Journal poll, after 91 criminal counts against the president, which
91,
only
there we go.
strengthened his position. So I don't know why we think that a conviction on one of these counts or more would fundamentally change the fact that Trump supporters have baked into the cake the fact that he has these legal troubles. In the Wall Street Journal poll, if you added the third-party candidates, Trump leads narrowly over Biden. That is the situation we find at this point.
And maybe it won't change anything, Reihan Salam, but Republicans almost unanimously now on that stage several days ago.
So she makes the point, because if you dive deeper into the Wall Street Journal poll, it's not just this one question. They ask multiple questions. It's just that the bottom line number is 46-46. But that's just head to head. When they do add in a third party, Trump wins. This is why they're deathly afraid of 2024. This is why the rhetoric, this is why the 91 charges, because it's like, we got to get him some kind of way. If it's not going to be the voters, it's going to be by the court system. But even that may not work. This guy, the bald head guy, he kind of gets, he must be some conservative, because he kind of gets into it. They don't like what he says and some of the things he says. I'm not sure it's in this clip, but because I saw the whole segment. But anyway, let's play.
Would vote for a convicted felon. Did you ever think you'd see the day?
Well, the truth is that we are in a very polarized moment. And when you're looking at the Republican Party, it is strikingly unified. If you look at the most conservative voters in the party, they back the former president disproportionately. If you look at more moderate voters, female Republican primary voters, he just really has a lock on both wings of the party, so to speak. And that's something that any rival has to appreciate it and respect.
So what does the rival do, though? Right now, it seems most of them are treating the former president with kid gloves. At some point, is one of the rivals going to have to go after him directly?
Well, it looks as though his rivals are hoping that he's somehow taken off the board. They're relying on some intervention, perhaps the prospect of the lawsuits proving so burdensome that he decides to step aside. There doesn't appear to be anyone who wants to frontally attack him, with the exception of Governor Christie.
I guess that leads to the other question, Heidi, is how is this legal system process going to play out, and will any of these trials kind of actually come to trial before the voters have basically made up their mind, at least on the Republican side?
They may well, but if you dig deeper into that Wall Street Journal poll, you find that 78% of Republican voters say that he was justified to try and turn over the election. So it's not going to necessarily matter, even if he is convicted. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says, even if he's convicted and goes to jail, that he can't run a campaign from a jail cell under the worst circumstances. So yes, it does look like we're not in 2016 anymore. We are seeing these mini boomlets like in 2016 of other Republican challengers.
But nobody's got.
But they're tiny. They're tiny. It's like 30% spread between those candidates and between Trump. And you don't see anything in the underlying Democratic and the crosstabs to show that this is going to change anytime soon, and that there's nothing that could come out of a conviction that would potentially change it.
Susan Page, one of the hopes of some of the other Republican candidates is that Donald Trump is, at least in some respects, somewhat softer support in the early states of Iowa and New Hampshire.
Yeah, and that's the formula for defeating him, or at least shaking things up in the Republican way. Somebody else win Iowa, somebody else win New Hampshire. Prompt Republican voters to look at some of their other options. But his lead is somewhat less in Iowa and New Hampshire. It's still double digits. It is still pretty formidable. Democrats do have two hopes, so I think. One is the economy's doing pretty well. Inflation has come down. Maybe that starts to...
The economy's doing pretty well, so I guess they got one hope then. Because that's a bold-faced lie. So the thing about Bidenomics and this go round about trying to sell economics, and it's not It's not working. Their propaganda is not working. That's it. So it kind of shines a light on the fact that the indicators that they've set up to supposedly tell us it's a good economy or not aren't indicators for us. They're not indicators for the average working person. That you telling me the economy's great has no reflection on me as a regular worker. That literally has to do with the owner class and the amount of money they're making. That's why they talk about the stock market. Rich people own the stock market. That's why they talk about unemployment, because they're fully staffed. So let's continue with the this clip. Almost done. Oops.
The sinking with voters. The other is the issue of abortion that has been so powerful in the midterm elections and could prove to be that again with those suburban swing women voters.
Well, that's the question, Donna Brazil. What happens when it actually comes to a general election? There is a pattern in the last couple of elections where the Democrats are winning the close races.
Well, because I think the Democrats understand that, you can be the superficial, which would what we're seeing on the Republican side with substance, and the substance, the policies, the practices of the Biden-Harris administration, improving people's lives. Look, this past week, this movement to reduce prescription drug prices, that's going to help Democrats. But I have to say something, because, George, I'm old enough to say this. I've seen two movements.
This is where she breaks down the point. So this is the whole point of the segment, where she breaks down the movements, and she talks about how she's seen movements, and we're talking about political movements, in her lifetime. And she talks about how this Trump thing feels like a movement. Ain't nothing you corporate suits on TV and cable news, print media, New York Times, Washington Post, all of your Democratic DAs in Georgia, Fulton County, wherever they're at, none of you can stop the movement if this is a movement. If it's a cult, I guess it could have some of the same surface traits. So is it a movement or is it a cult? Put your thoughts in the comments. I'll toss them up as we listen to the rest of this. But this is where Donna makes the point about a movement.
Movement to reduce prescription drug prices, that's going to help Democrats. But I have to say something, because, George, I'm old enough to say this. I've seen two movements outside of the social justice movements in my life on the political side. One was the Reagan movement. Reagan had a hold on his base, the country at large. They saw him as someone who was willing to stand up for American values, whatever that might have meant. Now, I thought it was reactionary. The other movement I saw was Barack Obama, hope and change. That galvanized the American people. I've never seen anything like this with Donald Trump. I mean, what doesn't kill you make you stronger? I mean, being being indicted, and that's making him stronger, raising $10 million using an ugly mugshot to raise money. This is a movement. And anyone who thinks that you can apply the old political rules to trying to defeat this candidate based on he's scary, he's ugly, whatever you might want to call him, this is a movement. And we have to respect the fact that it's a movement.
So that was a point. Let me pause this before I start some other video here. So that was the point of... There it started it anyway.
So, Race, I don't ask you the question I asked.
She says it's a movement. That's what Donna Brazil clearly says, or at least she compares it to some older political movements that she described, and that's the Obama political movement, Hope and Change, and then the Reagan Revolution back in the 80s. And she's saying this feels like it. And it's funny because Russell had brought this up and brought how it felt very similar to the Reagan Revolution, and I had agreed. So this is a movement, but just like this says, it's a movement. That doesn't necessarily always mean that it's a movement for good. That's not what it necessarily means. And this person says movement. I'm not sure. Any other ones? She says she's not wrong. So I'm assuming you're saying this is a movement if you're saying she's not wrong. Who else says? Oh, a bowel movement made me. Gotcha. Donna has two movements before lunch. We got jokesters out here. We got people who write comedy out here. Let's see any other opinions. I was really trying to see if there's anybody who said it wasn't a movement. You say it's a spiritual movement. Never heard MAGA being called a spiritual movement. All right. I think we're gonna end it there. Wanted to squeeze in that short segment because I just didn't feel like that would probably get squeezed in anywhere else. There's just too many other stories that are gonna probably push this out if I didn't get to it today. So there you go. All right, so now I'm gonna get out of here. I think I got one more super chat. Or no, this one right here wasn't a super chat, but I added because I wanted to read it. Great stream tonight, you guys, on fire. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the super chats. It looks like, yeah, we read them all. Thank you to everybody watching tonight. Hit that like button on your way out. Donate to the fundraiser for Aaron, and also make sure you check out our website. Where is it? I'll have it scroll down there at the bottom. There is our website. Check it out. It sounds like, so the Boston chapter has a mutual aid request form that you can fill out to get help. So if you need your lawn cut in Boston, you can fill it out on the website here. When I was showing that in Rome, when Rome and I were streaming, Rome wants to do that for Detroit too. So that's going to be coming for the Detroit chapter too, where we have a mutual aid request you can put in to get service. So that's one thing you can get check out on our website. Here's our Substack to know when we go live. We don't know what time we're going to go live tomorrow. Maybe we'll go live again in the evenings. May have to start doing more evening streams because of the school schedule of my kids, and just trying to stay open for that. And then that's the best way to contribute to RBN on a consistent basis, is to join our Patreon, become a Patreon member. I think the lowest I saw in there was $2 a month. So if you can afford $2-3 a month, you can be a Patreon member, and it's the Patreon link. I'm sorry, the Patreon URL is scrolling down below. I think that's all of the announcements. What I'm going to be doing at the Long Beach chapter for September is a diaper run. I'll be doing a fundraiser later on this month for a diaper run, and probably do a diaper run at one of the housing projects and just set up shop and give out some diapers at one of the housing projects here that this chapter is going to be servicing 3 housing projects: the Nickerson Garden housing projects, the Carmelitos housing projects, and there's another one. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head, but there's 3 that we're going to be servicing. And so the diaper run will be coming up soon. I'll let you know once the graphic and the flyer is done. We'll give it a shout out, and hopefully you're able to contribute. All right. I believe now that is it of all it's. And now we're going to get out of here. I'm going to see if there's anything I can play really quickly as an outro video for everybody. Oh, I'm on our page, so yeah, I guess I can. Videos popular. So let's see. It's a short video here. Oh, let's do this one. All right, so here's a short. It's not short, but I'll play a little bit of it. Let's play it from the beginning. There we go. And thank you for watching. And I am.
This stopped being about Trump, about 5 exits back on the American Empire Highway. Trump is a brick through the window. And before you had enough people who wanted to throw a brick through the window to elect him in 2016, he's become so bulletproof because now even more people want to throw that brick through the window and they don't give a fuck. And also, Biden never had supporters. Biden only ever had negative support. They only ever had people who voting against Trump. So that's a very weak base to challenge a popular uprising with. That's what this is. It's a despised, dissolute aristocracy that, like all aristocracies facing such a situation, just keep making it worse by trying to clamp down with censorship and suppression of the popular mood, which only builds more backlash against them. And it doesn't hurt that Trump plays the role well. I mean, the man does seem like someone who sacrificed a goat for eternal youth and vitality, because he seems fresh as a daisy, ready to go. Right? Most people, they do a few years in the presidency, they look like hell. He looks the same. He's fine. He's funny. He's fresh in his interviews. That with you put him next to the Pepperidge Farm guy with Alzheimer's that is Joe Biden, and people who didn't even fulfill the technocratic promise of what people at the very least expected, basic competence. Why not go for Trump? Like, you're not giving them any reason not to.
And that's the point. And I think that that's a great segue to this. You're not giving this support, that black support that Trump seemingly has accumulated or taken or siphoned, since they say that about Green Party votes, but siphoned from Trump. I'm sorry, from Biden. If you look here, our RBN sister Sabby's tweet here, and I think all of us, I think two of you I've seen your tweet about this, but look what she points out here. Trump has 20% support from black voters. With every indictment, he gains support. The media made Trump look like a martyr. Ask people in the hood how they feel. You'll hear different responses from mainstream media or corporate media. Follow the thread. Now, look at this here. This is amazing. Do you understand? Like, I know these numbers only because we've been dealing with these numbers, probably all of us. If the president, a Democratic president, is not getting an 80 percentile of black support, they are not going to win the presidency. He's getting 61%. So let me just read it, and then I'll pass it to you for your comments, and then we'll go through this thread that Sabby put together. 91% he had in 2020 black support. He's at 61% according to the latest Fox News poll in 2023. And then look at the difference with Trump. He had 8% in 2020, and then this year, in the same poll, I'm assuming that they're referring to 20%. Go ahead, guys.
That's unheard of.
Go ahead. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, the thing is, like, look, okay, first of all, Trump getting 20% in 2023. Can you go back to that image up there real quick?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
yes.
So again, look at it. In comparison from 2020 to now to 2023, that is absolutely devastating and humiliating for the Democrats, who for years pandered themselves to the black community, saying, oh, yeah, we care about black voters. We care about black issues. No, they don't. And then number two, this is something that Sabby talked about as well. Notice 61%, 20%. Where's that other 10% at? Where is the other, or dare I say, the other 20% at for voters? Because either half of that is non-voting, half of that is probably not voting, or the other half is voting third party or independent.
Right.
So that means not only is Trump getting 20%, but that means there's another 20%, or there's another 10% that it's going all in for independence or not voting in the electoral system. And this is a sign of things to come for the Democratic Party. And no AOC or Pramila Jayapal or Bernie Sanders can convince us that Biden is a better candidate, because the Democrats have abandoned black people. They did more of that than abandon black people. They abandoned everyone along their entire base. This is the end of a political party, and we're witnessing firsthand. And I, for one, have to applaud it. Keen, wait. Russell. Sorry. Holy shit. I got Joe Manchin now. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah, like I said, Keaton's not going to be around anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Sorry, Russ. Sorry about that. I screwed up.
Yeah, I mean, as CJ was saying, like for anyone who doesn't know, I think most people in this space know 20% for a Republican.
That's crazy.
Fucking
I never
unheard of. That is unheard of. I think you got a combination of things that are making Trump so bulletproof. You know, part of what I've mentioned a few times, which again is kind of generational. You've got this moment is reminding me a lot of the moments before the Reagan backlash. You know, there's the sense that the cultural revolution has gone too far. You've got that feeling, not only as they would like to lead you to believe among white MAGA people, among a lot of people feel that way. There are a lot of conservative people from a lot of communities who don't like a lot of what they're seeing. You've got, it depends on where you are. I mean, here in New York, it's not, I don't feel like things are dangerous, but you got San Francisco has no stores downtown anymore. Right. And we can talk about why that is, but in terms of how that impacts voters in different places, you got the same thing. New Orleans, all these places have shut down. They've left. You know, there are a lot of cities around the country now that are crime ridden. And, you know, our take is going to be, well, that's 40 years of neoliberalism. But the voters really don't give a shit about all that. What they want to know who's going to fix it. And the Democrats are the ones who are getting blamed for it, as they were towards the end of the 70s. And people turned to Reagan. A lot of people turned to Reagan as a solution, right? He's going to come in and fix it, and he's going to make things make sense again. There's that same feeling of people feeling like the country is spiraling out of control. It's scaring me. The economy sucks just like the 70s. Working people are suffering just like the 70s. Interest rates are off the hook just like the 70s. And they're saying, yeah, man,
It is a mirror. It is a mirror image. You know what? I never even thought of that until you just said that. And I was just having flashback. This is a mirror image. Both of these guys are actors who are now swept into power, or have this mandate by this conservative mandate. Doesn't Trump have a conservative mandate? We call it MAGA. You get what I'm saying?
Right,
like, this is like the same thing. And the same thing that precipitated the Reagan Revolution is some of the same things that are happening now. What are they laser focused about? Trans people. What were they laser focused about right after gay rights in the 80s because of AIDS? The Reagan Revolution. This is some of the same things. Same thing with black. So we're coming out of the 70s with a lot of black power themes. So you're talking about same sort of things happening right now. This is like, I'm having flashbacks when you said that. I never even placed it that way. But this guy